Radio People's Facts of Life and Family Ties will return next week at their regular time. Stay tuned for Game 2 of the National League Championship Series between the Dodgers and the Phillies.
NBC Sports presents the 1983 National League Championship Series. The pregame show is brought to you by Kodak Film. Life never looked so good. And by light beer from Miller. Everything you've always wanted in a beer and less. Dodger Stadium, the scene of Game 2 of the National League Championship Series. The weatherman giving us another overcast early evening and even a threatening look at possible showers. It rained immediately after last night's game. It'll be another crowd of around 50,000 to see John Denny go against Fernando Valenzuela. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Joe Garagiola. And, Joe, in the aftermath of last night's game, is there anything you got from that you can apply to tonight's game?
Well, I think as a fan, and we've heard it for 100 years, the one thing you can apply, Vin, is that we've heard never let the big man beat you. And Carlton did such a good job of pitching around Guerrero. I'm wondering, will Valenzuela start to pitch around Schmidt? And will Denny try to go around Guerrero? I'll be looking for that. And then, of course, there's a lineup change, which I think is a big factor.
Well, it's a big difference, too. You can pitch around Guerrero and get the rookie Marshall. If you pitch around Schmidt, you get Matthews, Maddox et al. So it's a totally different ballgame.
It is, and it'll depend on the temperament. Tommy Lasorda will have to get his Dodgers to score runs. He'll have to do it by getting something started. I'm looking for some hit and running. I'm looking for some stealing. But Brock is batting second. There are many things you can read into that. First of all, if Sachs gets on, it means he's got a hole between first and second. And also, if Sachs is on, maybe Brock will get more fastballs to hit, and he might pop one out and get it going. So I think Tommy had to think long and hard about that one.
He sure did, because Rick Monday, who might have started, is 3 for 3 with 2 RBIs against John Denny, while Greg Brock is 1 for 7, that one being a double and 1 RBI. So when we asked Lasorda, what about it, he said, well, I just have a hunch.
Well, and there's pinch hitters. If Monday's going to be the pinch hitter, then you got Holland going against him. Will Monday bat? A lot of things.
We'll find out about that. In fact, we'll be back with Len Berman and with Tom Seaver. All coming up right after this.
Kodak presents a breakthrough in color photography for the best color pictures ever from Kodak. A film for detailed color. A film for vibrant color. A film for fast action color. Even a film for low light color. New Kodacolor VR, 100, 200, 400, 1,000 speed films.
It's one of my bigger days.
Let me buy a beer.
Sure. These fans, I love them. When I came in, they didn't recognize me at first, but then when I told them who I was, next thing you know, they're buying me my favorite beer, light beer from Miller. They know us ex-big leaguers drink light because it's got a third less calories than their regular beer. It's less filling, and it tastes great. Thanks.
Hey, it's a pleasure to buy a beer for a great pitcher like Whitey Ford.
Hey,
So I lied. Light beer from Miller. Everything you've always wanted in a beer, and less.
Hey, Whitey, I thought you were a lefty. Oh, that's right.
Every morning, whether I'm here in Latrobe or on the road, I'm out there making sure all the parts are working. Nobody has to sell me on keeping in shape. I guess that's why I've always been sold on Pennzoil protection. Pennzoil helps keep the equipment in shape. And believe me, I'm a guy who believes in taking care of the old equipment.
Pennzoil, quality protection. Ask for it.
Back in Los Angeles, partly cloudy skies at the moment. Unlike in Baltimore this afternoon during Game 1 of the American League Championship Series, the skies really opened up. There was a rain delay, but when they completed action, the White Sox beat the Orioles 2-1. Don Criqui with the highlights now.
Thanks, Len. Game 1 of the American League Championship Series began at Baltimore with the threat of rain. Baltimore starter Scott McGregor ran into problems with 2 out in the 3rd inning. Rudy Law of the White Sox, who went 2 for 36 against Baltimore pitching this season, started a rally with this base hit. Carlton Fisk followed with another single, and then Tom Paciorek drove in Law with the first one of the game with this 2-out smash that was too hot to handle for Baltimore third baseman Todd Cruz. It was scored a hit. Chicago 1, Orioles nothing. In the 4th, the threatened rains came as American League President Lee McPhail looked down. The delay was 42 minutes. Later, when play resumed, Baltimore catcher Rick Dempsey broke up a double play the hard way. But Dempsey came back. Rick Dempsey stopped Vernon Law from scoring the game's 2nd run when he fielded a wild pitch at the backstop and threw to Scott McGregor, who made the tag at home plate. Chicago starter Lamar Hoyt continued to baffle the Orioles. John Lowenstein was caught looking at a strike to end the 7th inning. Baltimore's book on Lamar Hoyt doesn't overpower you, doesn't give you anything to hit. With 2 out in the 9th, Cal Ripken Jr. drove in pinch runner Tito Landrum to break the shutout of Lamar Hoyt. It was a 2-1 ball game. Then Eddie Murray came to the plate representing the winning run if he could hit it out. He could not. A ground ball to Scott Fletcher ended the game. And Lamar Hoyt, who spent 7 years in minor league baseball, moved closer to the American League Cy Young Award with his 14th straight win. Chicago beat Baltimore 2-1 to lead 1-0. Now this is Don Criqui. Back to Len Berman in Los Angeles.
Thank you, Don. So the visiting team wins game number 1 in both series. Tom Seaver, has to be the most critical game of the year for the Dodgers tonight.
Len, you're right. This is a must-win for the Dodgers. I think you got to look ahead a little bit. If they lose here, they got to go to Veterans Stadium and expect to win 3 in a row. I don't think that's going to happen. You got to remember the Phillies at home have the best record for a home team, 50-31. For the last 4 or 5 years, they've been very, very tough to beat at home, and I think it's be very tough for the Dodgers to go there and win 3 in a row.
So the pressure on Fernando Valenzuela tonight. Fans around the country know he's not the same Fernando he was a year ago.
Well, you know, winning 15 games is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, he pitched 250 innings, and he's the workhorse of this ball club. He had a little slump in the middle of the season, granted, but, you know, you expect certain things from certain players. I talked to Ron Farinowski, the Dodger pitching coach, earlier today. We talked about Fernando, and his troubles came when his shoulders started to move horizontally to the ground. And what Ronnie tried to do was get him, drive that right elbow down, get the arm back up on top, get your hand on top of the ball. If his shoulders go flat, he starts to push the ball, and his problems come with control. The ball starts to stay out of the strike zone away, and that was Fernando's problem. There was control.
Dodger fans, a bit down psychologically, I think. How about the players? Should they be?
I don't think the players can be that way. Joe Garagiola mentioned it yesterday. You can make a case for yourself. The Dodgers have got to say, well, we played this team 13 times now. They've only scored 16 runs against us. And it took a 1-0 effort and a beautiful effort from Steve Carlton to do that last night. So I don't think the Dodgers are down at all.
John Denny, Cy Young Award winner?
For me, he is, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Coming up in just a moment on our pregame report, a rare look and listen right inside the Phillies dugout. That's coming up right after this Olympic moment.
This Olympic moment is brought to you by the Bell System Yellow Pages. Get the Yellow Pages talking. Let your fingers do the walking.
August 25th, 1960, the Rome Olympic Games. 18-year-old Cassius Clay, later to be known as Muhammad Ali, is one of the members of the United States team and is the favorite to win the Olympic light heavyweight boxing gold medal.
All I had in mind was the Olympics, running every day, training, visiting the Russians, the Germans, the Italians, all the various barracks of the people. I was called the mayor of the Olympic Village because I was so popular. I just went all around meeting and greeting everybody. But my main goal when I got to the Olympics was to win it.
Cassius Clay wins his first 2 bouts easily. In the semifinal, he wins a unanimous but hard-fought battle with Anthony Madigan of Australia. Moving with Clay to the final, 25-year-old Zbigniew Pietrkowski of Poland, a veteran of 231 amateur fights. The bout goes the full 3 rounds. Cassius Clay completely outclasses his more experienced opponent. The judges are impressed by his lightning-clean punches and his ability on defense. When the final decision is announced, Cassius Clay is given the unanimous decision and wins the 1960 light heavyweight Olympic gold medal. A little more than 3 years later, he would become heavyweight champion of the world.
Help! The crazy pool hose broke! Helen!
The Bell Yellow Pages talks when your fingers do the walking.
Pool doctor, we make emergency calls.
Calling can save you time and energy.
Mrs. Murphy?
Pool doctor?
You recognize my voice.
Get the Yellow Pages talking.
We make emergency calls.
Let your fingers do the walking.
We weren't planning to go to Midas on our honeymoon, but we didn't have much choice. The brakes on my old Camaro were making a terrible noise, so we pulled into Midas and showed them my guarantee.
And now you're Pat Fitzsimmons?
I am. Used to be. Midas fixed the brakes right away, and because of the guarantee, the brake shoes were free. I guess something always goes wrong on our wedding day. It's a good thing we could go to Midas. Trust the Midas touch.
Back at Dodger Stadium, for the first time in the annals of the playoffs, we were permitted to put a wireless microphone on Phillies manager Paul Owens and 3 of his coaches. We then quickly turned the tape around to show it to you tonight. Here is a look and listen at some rare tape. Here's what the entire country saw last night. Dodger Stadium at twilight. Steve Carlton for the Phillies. Jerry Royce for the Dodgers. Now here's what nobody heard.
Mike Schmidt.
Come on, Smitty. Come on now. Get out of here.
Get up, get up. Atta boy, hubby.
Get that card out. I like that one right.
Now the inside stuff. Darren Johnson called Schmidt Herbie. That's his team nickname. Dave Bristol told him, get that card out. Schmidt had an autographed Joe Garagiola baseball card in his pocket as a good luck charm. The most critical moment for the Phillies. 8th inning. Dodgers threatening. Is Carlton tiring? It's time for pitching coach Claude Osteen to get the bullpen ready.
All right, you can have Holland get up and go along with Lefty and watch how things go.
When Pedro Guerrero walked to load the bases, Osteen went to the phone and then consulted with Paul Owens one more time.
Holland's ready, isn't he?
Ready?
Yeah, Holland is.
Bring him, I'll get him.
The major decision was made. Bring in Al Holland.
Hell of a job, that guy.
An irony here. Steve Carlton didn't know Paul Owens was mic'd. Lefty kept silent anyway.
2 outs, got him loaded, kid, so you just got to get the hitter. All right? Let's get him out, man. Let's go.
Holland facing Mike Marshall. Bases loaded, 2 outs.
Hey, baby! Hey, for you! Hey, baby!
The Phillies had escaped the 8th. One more hurdle to clear. 9th inning. The tying run on second. Dodger Stadium alive. Greg Brock, the batter.
It's one of us. Nice spot, David. One, baby. Beautiful, beautiful, baby. Go, Michael. Ready. Ready.
We'd like to thank the Phillies for allowing us to eavesdrop in their dugout. A phone call to the bullpen is just like a phone call at home. No difference. Just call up a friend. And that'll do it for our pregame report. I'm Len Berman. Thanks for watching. Coming up, game number 2 between the Phillies and the Dodgers with Vin and Joe. Right after this report from NBC News.
This is NBC News Digest, sponsored by GTE. Here is Connie Chung, NBC News.
Good evening. In Poland, Solidarity leader Lech Wałęsa says he may send a relative to Oslo, Norway, to accept the Nobel Peace Prize for him. He also said he will give the prize money to farmers through a Catholic church fund. The AFL-CIO has formally endorsed former Vice President Walter Mondale for the Democratic presidential nomination. Now this.
Imagine solar-powered telephone calls.
Gee.
No, GTE.
Tonight, a key congressional supporter of Interior Secretary James Watt says Watt told him he will resign to avoid a Senate condemnation vote. President Reagan today again expressed support for Watt. A Wall Street rally today, the Dow Jones Industrials closed up more than 13 points. I'm Connie Chung in New York. More news later on this NBC station and on NBC News overnight.
If you're serious about business, you're already investing a lot of time and money and effort in your career. Now think for a second. Isn't your career, your future, worth 37 cents a day more?
Get all the business news you need when you need it. Get the Wall Street Journal, delivered for 6 months for $47. Phone toll-free 800-228-3131. That's 6 months, $47, only 37 cents a day. Phone 800-228-3131 now.
For most of us, competing under the Olympic torch is a fantasy that's far out of reach. But to many athletes, that torch is a beacon luring them on. And Michigan athletes are no exception.
It's the ultimate that I've always wanted. It's always been a dream.
This is Eli Zaret. Meet the Michigan athletes who want to make it to L.A. in '84 no matter what the odds. Michigan goes for the gold on News 4 tonight after baseball.
Go for the laps on Barney Miller tomorrow at 5 on 4.
For the Detroit suburb of Oak Park, the melting pot is a new reality. Find out what happens when cultures combine in My Little Town on News 4 Suburban Bureau Extra tonight at 6.
presents Game 2 of the 1983 National League Championship Series. Tonight from Dodger Stadium, it's the Philadelphia Phillies versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. Tonight's game is brought to you by light beer from Miller. Everything you've always wanted in a beer and less. By Ford at your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Gillette Atra Razor, the twin blade razor that pivots for a close, comfortable shave. And by E.F. Hutton. When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. Dodger Stadium, the scene of Game 2, with John Denny going for the Philadelphia Phillies, Fernando Valenzuela for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Hi, once again, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Joe Garagiola. Let's put an eye on the pitches. First of all, John Denny.
Well, John Denny, I think, is a shoo-in for the Cy Young Award. He's a right-hander who has great concentration. I think it borders on the same plateau as a Steve Carlton. He has found inner peace within himself, and he's a different type pitcher, great condition. Valenzuela, everybody talks about his screwball, but Vin, he's had to make adjustments. He has. I look for him to bust some fastballs inside with the screwball setting up the fastball. It's a reverse kind of thing, but I think that's what he'll do.
And another study of contrast, Fernando was 8-2 by June and then turned around and went 7-8. Denny was struggling, and by July the 1st, he reeled off a record of 13-1. Right now, the large crowd standing here at Dodger Stadium for our national anthem.
In left field, Jerry Crawford. On the right field line, Terry Tata. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's color guard is from the Los Angeles Police Department. Will you please rise and join in singing our national anthem with Helen Dell at the Dodger Stadium Hammond organ. Ladies and gentlemen,
you're looking at the two best reasons I take good care of my brakes, and why I go to Midas on a regular basis. Midas inspects brakes the right way. They pull the wheel. If anything needs doing, I know it gets done right. Some people say I'm overly cautious, but I don't think so. I just feel better going to Midas.
Where nothing but the best is ever gonna do. Just the Midas touch. Mustang!
The Mustang attitude. The one and only boss, Mustang GT. The wide-open Mustang convertible. The turbocharged precision of Mustang SVO.
Mustang does what a Mustang does, what it does.
Decisions, decisions, decisions. Have you driven the best-built American cars?
Have you driven a Ford lately?
When the game's on the line, a manager wants a relief pitcher who shuts the door on enemy bats. Major League Baseball salutes Kansas City's Dan Quisenberry and the Phillies' Al Holland as winners of baseball's Rolaids Relief Man Awards. Quisenberry won his third Relief Man Award in the American League and set a new Major League save record, while Al Holland was a first-time winner in the National League.
The preceding message was furnished by Major League Baseball.
Presenting the 1983 National League Rolaids Relief Man of the Year Award is Mel Goods, Senior Vice President of Warner Lambert, maker of Rolaids.
Rolaids never forgets what relief means. That's why we're so proud to recognize the league's top relief pitcher with this award. This year, in the National League, Rolaids spells relief, Al Holland.
Thanks, Mel, and thanks, Rolaids. For a minute, I thought you guys were going to spell my name R-O-L-A-I-D-S. But it's great to know Rolaids appreciate us relief pitchers.
Hi, this is Joe Morgan of the Philadelphia Phillies and a member of the Wheeze Kids. Tonight's starting lineup for the Phillies goes like this. Hitting first and playing second base will be Joe Morgan, one of the youngest members of the Wheeze Kids. Hitting second is the oldest member of the Wheeze Kids, Pete Rose. Pete has a 15 consecutive game hitting streak going into playoffs. Hitting third is our power hitter, Mike Schmidt. Hitting fourth will be Sixto Lescano. He came over from San Diego toward the end of the season and really helped us. Hitting fifth will be Gary Matthews, one of the hardest playing guys I've ever played with. Hitting sixth and playing center field is our Gazelle, Gary Maddox. Hitting seventh is Bo Deals, very consistent player behind the plate, and very good player, I might add. Hitting eighth is probably the most underrated player in this league, Ivan DeJesus. I've really been impressed with him this year since I played with him. Hitting ninth and pitching is John Denny, our Cy Young candidate for the year.
The large crowd still filing in. The game will probably start in another couple of minutes, but the crowd's still not in here. This is an awkward time, of course, locally. It's 5:25, so you have a lot of folks just coming out of work, and you have the normal traffic in downtown Los Angeles, so it's a bit of an effort to get here.
Vin, a lot was said as we look at the crowd starting to file in about the background here. Yesterday, it was kind of an overcast day, but today it might be a factor with the reflection of those seats in center field, and you saw that as we kind of panned at the center field area. Left-handers, a little bit tougher than right-handers to hit here, but I don't know. I think in a playoff or a World Series, if you're in that, you could hit in the Holland Tunnel at midnight.
And certainly Pete Rose and company about ready to play. Bo Diaz stretching out. There is a little bit of sunlight left at this hour, and it is more or less splashing up against the right field bleachers. So for perhaps the first inning, why, Mike Marshall and Sixto Lescano might have a little bit of trouble picking up the ball as it comes off the bat. And Bobby Wine gesturing. He doesn't know why the delay, and we'll get underway in a moment. The Dodgers and the Phils, and the Dodgers ready to take the field. There is last night's loser, Jerry Royce, and there's Mike Marshall, and there's Fernando. And, of course, Fernando in this town, especially covering his left arm, makes everybody think of the matador about ready to slay the bull. And the Dodgers, of course, feeling somewhat the pressure that it would be asking more than a lot to go to Philadelphia and win 3 in a row. So Fernando, $1 million pitcher, is asked to be just that. And standing next to him is a kid you could write a book about, Jack Fimple. Fimple, the youngster called up from Albuquerque, and if you can see his right hand, he has a hairline fracture of that right hand, and the ring and little finger are taped together, and then it looks like he took too much batting practice. They literally taped the hand to hold it together, Joe, and with all of that, he hit a home run in Cincinnati.
He's an amazing young man. He's a confident young man, and he hears a lot about the pressure. And there's probably no bigger game this year than this one for the Dodgers. And here he is going behind the plate. And he said he knew he was going to catch. And he took the scouting reports home. And he's studying them. And he's got a mental picture of what he has to do. I love that fan club, man. You saw the sign. It says Fimple Fever. Catch it. It'll make you giggle forever. I love it.
Fernando Valenzuela slowly striding to the mound. He did something a little bit unusual. Usually the starting pitcher would stay in the trainer's room, but he was out on the bench early, maybe a little fidgety.
Well, the defense will find Dusty Baker in left field. He still has the miseries with the legs. Kenny Landreau will be in center field. He'll have to roam wide and handsome. Marshall is in right field. He was at first base yesterday, so he's getting a real test. And then at third base, Guerrero. He's in there because of his bat. Russell is the dean of the infield. He'll be the man that's to anchor it down. Sachs, the kid who had problems in the summer throwing the ball, no problems of recent days. Brock is at first base. And Brock batting second is interesting. Fimple, we talked about him as the catcher, and Fernando is the pitcher.
You could indeed write a book about Fernando. He is 2-1 against Philadelphia this year, and he lost the only game against Philadelphia. He lost to Kevin Gross 4-1, August the 26th. He's had a year of extremes. He's had 9 innings under his belt 11 times. He's been chased as early as 2 2/3 innings. And perhaps of all of the things, he threw 4 wild pitches in each of his first 2 years. He has thrown a dozen this year. So immediately you know that he's had problems with his control.
And if you saw the pregame show, this is a great shot of what Tom Seaver was talking about. He has to have that right shoulder drive towards the batter and not be horizontal parallel, and then he just kind of flattens out. And that's something that Ron Peronowski, the pitching coach, will be looking for. And Valenzuela, famous for the screwball, but you watch him use that fastball. Peronowski's really been working with him. Don't be afraid to come inside, and when they start leaning over, much in the days of Sal Magley, when you'd start leaning over for that curveball, he'd bust that fastball in, and you'd be losing 2-1 before you knew it.
Well, Joe Morgan will start it off, followed by Pete Rose and then Mike Schmidt. Morgan in last night's game went 0 for 4 in his leadoff role. Fernando was 8-2 at the start of the year with 4 shutouts. And then he turned around, and he was 7-8 the rest of the way, completely opposite of John Denny. Fernando did not have a shutout after May. And Morgan pulls the first one on the ground to Sachs, and he throws it to Brock, and just like that, 1 pitch and 1 away. The Dodgers fully well know how tough it would be, even though they won 5 out of 6 at Veterans Stadium this year. They know how tough it would be to have to go back there and win 3 straight. Philadelphia, an extremely successful club at the Vet. They won 50 of their 81 there. Here's Pete Rose with a 15-game hitting streak in the League Championship Series. Look at that number, 415. The Rose will test Fernando now. 1 out, first inning, just the start of things. And a screwball missing, ball 1.
Rose is a long ways from home plate. Now, you wouldn't think he'd be able to cover that outside zone, but he is kind of looking for that ball to drive it to the opposite field.
The 1-0 pitch, he takes a screwball on the outside corner, and the count 1 ball, 1 strike, and he turned and said screwball high to plate umpire Dick Stello. 1 ball and 1 strike to Pete Rose. Fastball, but he missed with it, ball 2, 2-1. Pete Rose hit .235 left-handed, but he hit .283 right-handed during the regular season. He's very tough from this side of the plate. 2 balls, 1 strike. And that's in there. 2-2.
When Fernando throws that fastball outside, what Karnowski's pitching coach would like to have him do is to throw it not really on that outside corner, but a little bit away from it, out of the zone.
Here's his 2-2 pitch. And that is just outside. He thought he had it.
That's the perfect pitch that Karnowski wants, because that really does the job for him, Ben. It'll set up his screwball, and also it'll make those hitters a little bit leery of the strike zone.
And Karnowski muttering because he felt that was a strike. The 3-2 pitch to Pete Rose is taken low, ball 4. So Fernando, not wild, but just off the corner. And I'm sure he felt the 2-2 pitch was strike 3. You can tell sometimes by his mannerism. You know, he talked about his inconsistency. But Valenzuela did tie for the team lead in wins with Welsh. And he led the teams in complete games, starts, shutouts, innings, and strikeouts. So he didn't have that bad a year. But here's trouble now. Mike Schmidt. You know, an interesting thing about baseball, especially, Joe, you were talking and speculating about whether they would try to perhaps pitch around Mike, especially after the home run last night. Fernando delivers and gets a strike. Look at Schmidt's numbers. He had 128 walks. He had 148 strikeouts. If you throw in the times he was hit by pitches and sacrifices, he had 283 at-bats this year where he didn't have anything to do with the bat. You know, didn't hit the ball, didn't do anything. That's a lot of at-bats.
Yes, sir.
The pitch in there, strike 2.
It's a real test for Valenzuela, because obviously he can't pitch around Schmidt. He's got to go at him. Mike knows that, and he's made 2 real good pitches in and out. The last one was really that hard, nasty screwball they talk about, because Fernando throws 2 different screwballs, the hard one and that just big breaking off-speed one.
Well, as you heard and read, I'm sure, a notorious low ball hitter is Mike Schmidt. And the screwball is high and outside, ball 1, 1-2.
It's a good shot to watch Mike Schmidt kind of kickstart that body. When he gets ready to hit that hip, you'll see it kind of wiggle. Musial had the exaggeration. In fact, Musial needed some down-home music, and it had his own act. But watch Schmidt.
1-2 to count to Mike, who has led the National League in home runs 6 times in the last 10 years.
Right there.
Yeah, there it is. And it is low, ball 2, 2-2. On deck is Sixto Lezcano. He arrived just before midnight on August 31st in the deal with San Diego. And he's hitting cleanup in the LCS. Mike heaving a big sigh. 2 balls and 2 strikes. 1 out, just the start of things. Pete Rose at first base. The 2-2 pitch is swung on and missed. So Mike Schmidt goes down on strike. Strikeout number 1 for Fernando. And with 2 down in the first inning, Sixto Lezcano coming up.
Didn't you find it interesting that Royce said the only bad pitch he made was to Lezcano last night? There's a shot of Schmidt taking a swing. You can see he was completely fooled because that is not a Mike Schmidt swing.
No, although you have to remember now, he struck out 148 times during the regular season, so he's been known to chase a couple.
But I'll bet you when he strikes out with his regular swing, you can feel a mask pull off your face.
Now with 2 out, here's Sixto, and Lezcano takes a strike, 0-1. Rose is a break-even base stealer, so it's doubtful he's going to go. Stolen 7, caught 7. Although they might want to test Fimple's hand, not so much his arm. Remember, that right hand is heavily taped. Strike 1 pitch to Lezcano inside. Remember, too, the Phillies scored only 14 runs against the Dodgers. And Lezcano, while he was with San Diego, had 11 RBIs as we study Jack Fimple's right hand once he takes it out of the well there. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Ball 2, 2-1. Naturally, with the bases empty, Fimple could afford to tuck that hand behind his right leg. But with a runner at first, he cannot have that luxury. Fernando with the count 2-1 on Lezcano. On deck, Gary Matthews. And the fastball, 2-2 the count. Gary Matthews, Sarge as they call him on the Phils. Hard-nosed ball player. 2 balls and 2 strikes, and there goes Rose. The throw to Brock. He'd have stolen it on Fernando. Oh, did he catch him?
Late steal, and once again, we talked about it yesterday. Experience, that was it. It certainly wasn't speed that did it, but that's Pete Rose. He sees, hey, nobody's paying attention. I'm going, and he's got plenty of time. Because not only did he catch Fernando, Sachs was a bit late, and all Brock could do is wait till he gets there, and it was too late.
So now let's see if Philadelphia catches it in. And the 2-2 pitch, a high fly ball to left. Baker going back to the track at the wall. He's got it. So Lezcano, a long fly ball to left, and they leave Pete Rose at second base. And the score at the end of half an inning, Philadelphia nothing, and the Dodgers coming up.
Why do babies cry? We don't know exactly. They just cry. They may be hungry or need changing. But as their intelligence grows, they'll learn to tell us what's wrong in no uncertain terms. Xerox has been teaching its machines to communicate with people in the same way. They call it artificial intelligence. While the early copiers could only flash a light at you, the new ones are something else. There is a new Xerox copier that can tell you 120 different facts about itself. Another new copier is as smart as 6 personal computers. It even has a screen that can draw you a diagram of itself. What's ahead? Well, think of the babies. If they become more intelligent, most of them will learn not only how to spot trouble, but how to avoid it. Imagine a copier that can spot trouble and avoid it. How many grown-ups do you know who can do that?
To create, reproduce, preserve, and share information around the office and around the world. From Xerox.
As a relief pitcher, everybody thought I had it easy. See Pat here? He'd pitch his heart out for 8 innings or so, and then I'd come in, toss 3 or 4 pitches, and walk away with a win. But I had to train just like the rest of us. Yeah, well, I still like to keep in shape, and he drinks light beer from Miller. See, light's less filling, and light really tastes great. Will you just let me finish? Why? You never let me finish.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Let me finish that for you, Sparky.
Here's the way the Dodgers stack up offensively. At second base, leading off, Steve Sachs. At first base, in the number 2 slot, Greg Brock. The number 3 hitter all year in left field is Dusty Baker. And the muscle man, the cleanup man at third, is Pedro Guerrero. Kenny Landreau will be in center field, followed by Mike Marshall in right field. Bill Russin, the veteran shortstop, will hit 7th. Jack Pimple, in contrast, the rookie behind the plate, hitting 8th, and Fernando on the hill. On the mound right now, John Denny. And Denny pitching to Sachs, Brock, and Baker, a 19-game winner, who was also second in the league in earned run average. And a fly ball on the first pitch to Gary Maddox in center field. And with all his gold gloves, that's a cinch. 1 away. We were talking about John Denny and what a year he had. After losing to the Reds July the 8th, Denny's record was 6-5. From the 12th of July on, John Denny went 13-1. And his only loss came the end of August against the Dodgers. Actually, the Phillies played kind of sloppy back of him. He gave up 5 earned runs in 5 innings, and he was gone. Well, here's Greg Brock. Brock is 1 for 7 against Denny, while Rick Monday was 3 for 3 with a couple of RBIs. And Lasorda agonized about playing Monday instead of Brock, and he finally went with the youngster. Good little wiggle on that thing. Strike one.
That was his slow curveball. You saw a great shot of his concentration. They talk about him having a tunnel.
1 ball, 1 strike. He missed the tunnel that time.
He has a tunnel between the mound and home plate, and he's just able to concentrate so hard. He's a fast worker, as you can see.
Check swing, and the ball is foul, and the count 1-2. But Denny just didn't suddenly burst upon the scene as Bo Diaz puts a new ball back to him. Denny won the ERA title in 1976 when he was with the Cardinals, and in his first full year in the major leagues.
And Claude Osteen was there with the Cardinals with him and remembered it, and it was a mechanical thing, which we'll talk about in a minute.
The 1-2 pitch to Brock, breaking ball in the dirt.
He used to hook the ball. When you see him going to his delivery from that center field shot where he gets the hand behind him, he would bend his wrist and he would hook it, and it would flatten out his curveball.
Here's the 2-2 pitch. Off speed, strike 3 called. So Brock is going to go hungry looking for fastballs. 2 down. So John Denny strikes out Greg Brock with a great straight change. And the batter now is Dusty Baker. Baker thoroughly frustrated after last night's game, especially with a runner at third when he popped the ball in the air to Steve Carlton. Bake's numbers were reasonably good, but not for him. He was troubled with bad knees and a groin pull, and he felt it really bothered his swing. Against Philadelphia, he had a very tough year. He had only 100 with just 1 RBIs and no home runs, and that breaking ball is over. 1-1. So they really threw a blanket over it.
Let's go, man.
2 down, first inning, no score. Fastball, but he just showed it to him outside.
His fastball has been clocked at a high of 88. Fernando's was clocked at 86, his fastest.
The 2-1 pitch. Fastball hit to the left is short, and DeJesus can't come up with it. The ball dying on the grass, but Baker doesn't have the legs to perhaps leg it to 2. A younger Baker might very well have gone for an extra base on that, but not now. And DeJesus kicks it.
He just made an error right through the wicket. He didn't get the tailgate down and went right on through. Might add, if you saw the ball die in the outfield, you'll see another shot from behind. It's just a major league error is what that is. He just butchered it. But the infield is very slow. The grass is high, so that ball's not going to shoot through there, and it just literally died in that outfield, as you saw.
Well, we mentioned how Philadelphia pitched around Guerrero last night. Fastball for a strike. There is a difference in the Dodger lineup tonight. Last night, you had the rookie Marshall hitting behind Guerrero. Tonight, you have a veteran Landreau hitting back of him. We'll see what difference that might make in John Denny's pitching. 0-1 to Pedro Guerrero. Either 16 of his first 22 home runs either tied or put the Dodgers ahead early in the year. He meant that much.
Denny has a quick move to first base. It's not a great move, but it's a better than average, and he uses a different tempo in his delivery to the plate because of the release. Although Baker not that big a threat to steal, Denny will be able to keep it close.
1 ball and 1 strike to Guerrero. Breaking ball, grounded foul by Joe Malfitano, and down the line, and the count 1-2.
Ben, it's amazing the influence that Steve Carlton has had on John Denny.
Yeah, the martial arts and everything.
The whole thing, the conditioning, and you can see how fast he is working. And when a pitcher works like that, there you see Lefty, when a pitcher works like that, the infielders are ready. They're anticipating the play. They're on their toes. They're not laying back. You give me a pitcher to work slow, and I'll show you a team that will make a lot of errors.
1-2 the count to Pedro Guerrero. And the fast one is just outside. Ball 2, 2-2. By winning 19 this year, that's 5 more than Denny had ever won in a year. A couple of years ago with the Cardinals, he won 14. In his last 9 starts, he walked only 6 men. You talk about control. 2-2 to Pedro Guerrero. Baker at first, 2 out in the first inning, no score. And the crowd much more alive at this hour than they were last night. The difference, of course, for the Dodgers getting out of the first inning unscathed last night, Schmidt's home run. 2-2. Fastball fouled away, and it was in on the hands, and Pedro really didn't get around on it. John Denny did not miss a start this year. Only the second time in his 8-year career he didn't have an injury problem that forced him to miss games. The 2-2 pitch. Fastball, and again Guerrero late and fouled it back.
Ben referred to the martial arts program that Gus Heffling, who is a strength trainer with the Phillies and Carlton, goes through. Denny, an hour a day except on the days that he pitches.
John at the belt. And he throws behind Guerrero. That one slipped and hit him right on the numbers. So Guerrero hit by the pitch. So with 2 out, an error, a hit batter.
Number 44.
If you're going to get hit, here's where you want to get hit. And that particular pitch, it's a slow curveball, get hit right on the old buns. That doesn't hurt.
Especially him.
That's right.
He's mostly iron.
You can hear it clank.
Kenny Landreau with 2 on and 2 out. Baker at second, Guerrero at first. Landreau with 17 home runs, a career high, and the off-speed pitch missed. Ball 1. Landreau also had 66 RBIs, as we mentioned last night. He's had a bad leg. He was hit by a Nolan Ryan fastball, which will give you a bad leg immediately. Fastball, and that's hit up the middle. Base hit. Here comes Baker to score. Guerrero stopping at second.
Number 5, right fielder, Mike Marshall.
So the Dodgers get 2 breaks. First the error, then a control pitcher hits the batter with 2 strikes, and they cash it in on the base hit by Kenny Landreau. And the batter now is Mike Marshall. 1-0 Dodgers, first inning. Marshall followed by Russell. Mike hit .284 during the regular year, and that big sweeping curveball missing. Ball 1, 1-0. Monty Basco, one of Lasorda's trusted aides, taking in the scenery. The 1-0 pitch, a strike. Marshall last night grounded out, hit into a force play, struck out and flied out. But he came up with people aboard, and he was unable to advance them. 1-1 the count. Slow curve, pulled foul over Amalfitano's head. 1-2.
Now it's a trouble curve because he got that curveball up in his eyes as we look at Lasorda. Marshall has good power to the opposite field. He's got a big gap in right center field. And Denny looks like he's trying to pitch the ball outside.
1-2 to Mike. And a breaking ball down and away. Good save, backhanded by Diaz. One thing that has been driving Paul Owens to distraction, the Phillies make so many errors against the Dodgers. They've made 15 errors in the last 13 games against the Dodgers. He tried to time the curve, and he just lifts a fly ball to Gary Maddox. The Dodgers get a run on a hit and an error and a hit batter, and 2 left. And at the end of an inning, as Fernando and John Denny eyeball the hitters, Dodgers 1, Phillies nothing.
For 15 years, they followed his track. A big lean guy they call Big Mac. He's the leader of the pack.
Let's get him.
McDonald's Great Big Mac. Pure lean beef, special sauce and cheese, pickles and onions.
Big Mac, please.
They're fresh off the grill, 7 stories tall. He's the most wanted of them all. Leader of the pack, Big Mac. McDonald's and you.
What keeps America going on a freezing day?
Presto.
What brings football fans up to Green Bay? Presto.
Why does your car need a fresh fill of Prestone? After just 10,000 miles of driving on weak, neglected antifreeze, a radiator could look this bad, while a Prestone radiator looks this good. That's the Prestone difference.
What brings them to the mountains from wherever they call home? America goes
Sean Connery is James Bond, Agent 007 in Never Say Never Again. Sean Connery is James Bond in Never Say Never Again. Rated PG. Starts Friday, October 7th. Check newspaper for theater.
Joe Piscopo, Saturday Night Sports, The Big Story, reruns, over, host, The Boss, music, John Cougar. Saturday night is live.
Captain John Creighton of Hermosa Beach, California, piloting the Goodyear blimp Columbia, and the cameraman is George Simpson. A magnificent panoramic shot of Dodger Stadium and the surrounding area. Now back on the ground, Gary Matthews, Gary Maddox, and Bo Diaz in the second inning. Dodgers 1, Phillies nothing. That's a strike. 0-1.
There's two things that he does that really kind of get to me. He gets on that front toe, and if he gets a base hit, the first thing he does is knock his hat off.
The strike one pitch fouled away. 0-2. He punched holes in the Dodger pitching staff. Although the Phils only won one game, it certainly wasn't his fault. Matthews hit .342 against the Dodgers during the regular year. Sarge can hack away. 0-2. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
That's quite a tribute. Joe Morgan said, toughest player I've played with.
Yeah, ever, and he's played with a lot of them.
Yes, sir, and some good ones.
1-2 the count to Gary Matthews. And the fastball is hammered to left field. See you later. Home run in the left field bleachers. So the number 1 Phil got a low fastball and jerked it out. And just like that, a 1-1 tie.
No doubt about it. And Fernando, almost in disbelief, he knew the minute that ball was touched off that it was gone.
So evidently a case again of a misplaced fastball. Look at this. He golfed it out.
And he watches it. Look at that. He knows. If you hit him that well, you want to watch him. He's still looking at it. Nah, he just wants to make sure, yeah, it's gone. And here he goes. A beautiful trip.
Fernando had allowed 16 home runs during the regular year as he gets Maddox to go after the first one. 0-1. According to the speed gun, maybe Valenzuela threw a little harder than he normally does. The speed gun's at 87 miles per hour. That's a little bit high for him.
Sometimes when they throw that hard, the good stuff just flattens out. Maddox, by the way, took some 30 minutes extra batting practice with Coach Dave Bristol earlier today.
1-1 pitch to Gary is a line drive base hit in left field. So the Phils come storming back on a home run by Matthews, a line single to left by Maddox, and the batter will be Bo Diaz.
Batting 7. And with nobody out, you can look for something maybe to happen here because he's got good speed at first base in Maddox, and Diaz can handle a bat. He tried it last night, a hit-and-run play. As we look at Osteen, Owens, Carlton in the background, and Bobby Wine.
Diaz, the catcher, grounded into 10 double plays during the year. And then you have DeJesus and the pitchers. So let's see if they put any kind of a play aboard. Maddox held on by Greg Brock at first. Fernando has a good move. Maddox, of course, a veteran and a knowledgeable base runner. One tie, top of the second inning.
I think he was just measuring him on that first pitch. If you had to pick a pitch, you'd pick it right here because it's certainly ideal situations. You got a man who's around the plate, a guy who can handle a bat, and Diaz, good speed at first base. I'd look for him to run right here. 1 ball and no strikes. We'll watch Maddox. He goes. The pitch is fouled away, and Diaz, fooled by it, lost control of his bat. It went way out beyond the mound. And the bat boy, Bruce Wendell, who is an executive in the music business, comes to the ballpark in a Rolls Royce. And for Wendell, he was quite a Philadelphia story. Watch Bo. He threw the bat to get a piece of it, and that's what he has to do. He has to do everything he can to get the bat on the ball. He can't wait for the good pitch because that is hit and run. And, of course, that's the difference between run and hit. Run and hit, you have an option. You know, Bill Giles didn't want Bruce Wendell to be the bat boy because they were 0-6 here this year. But the players outvoted the president. Big chopper foul outside of third and down the line, and the count 1-2. The Phillies have not run against the Dodgers, basically because
in the Dodgers' 11 victories, the Phillies only led in 1 inning, and you don't run too much when you're behind. So they've only stolen 3 bases in 14 attempts against the Dodgers this year. 1-2. Fernando Valenzuela and John Denny, Game 2 of the National League Championship Series. If you missed it, earlier today, the Chicago White Sox nipped Baltimore 2-1. The 1-2 pitch to Diaz. Screwball hit down to shortstop. Russell shovels to Sachs. He goes to Brock, and there's the double play. And boy, what an effort at second base.
Yes, sir. Sachs did a tremendous job of getting rid of that ball, because you talk about a guy upending you. Gary Maddox did a good job. He did everything he could to prevent a double play. Now, Sachs knows he's going to get it and gets the ball off, and then he just gets dumped. I mean, that is really leaving the scene of the accident right there.
So Sachs climbing Gary Maddox, and they get the double play, and with 2 down in this 1-1 tie, Ivan De Jesus, the shortstop who was weaned in the Dodger organization, coming up. He slices one down the right field line, foul, out of play in the count 0-1. I always marveled at the legs of Ivan De Jesus. His thighs look like they should have been given to a sumo wrestler, or at least to a man much larger than he is. Maybe one reason why he has played 8 years without ever missing a game to injury. 1-1.
And with those tight pants, boy, they take advantage of it. I mean, those baggy pants we wore, if you were in shape, you were out of shape, just trying to get in. These guys, look at them.
Yeah, they paint them on.
Spray paint them, I bet.
1-1 to De Jesus. He only missed 4 games all year. That's a strike. 1-2. Fernando Valenzuela touched up for a home run by Gary Matthews to get Philadelphia even. Got a double play ball to ease the burden, and now trying to get De Jesus and get out of the inning. Just held up, no swing, says first base umpire John McSherry. And John, when he tells you no swing, it's pretty obvious to everybody in the ballpark. 2-2, the count to Ivan De Jesus. 2 out, 1-1, top of the second. Screwball fouled off. Fernando Valenzuela, who has already won a Cy Young Award against John Denny, who is the #1 candidate in the league to win the Cy Young Award this year. There's a Cy Young Award winner when it comes to looks and talent, huh? Cary Grant and his wife Barbara.
And the other lady, Mrs. Vin Scully.
Well, that ain't no bad crowd to hang around with.
No, sir.
2-2 the count to Ivan De Jesus. And a showcase fastball way outside.
Boy, it upsets me when people confuse me with him.
Yeah, I can see that. You're tall.
Is he handsome?
Oh. And he missed. So Fernando, in 1981, he would saw that corner off until you would really think he could thread a needle. In 1983, he doesn't quite do it.
John Denny.
So he has walked 2, and now a pretty good hitting pitcher in John Denny coming up.
He put on a pretty good exhibition during batting practice. He not only is a pretty good hitter, he's got a pretty good power. Don't look at the averages. I mean, you don't look for pitchers to have big averages. Get that bat on the ball, and he can drive it if he gets a hold of it.
And he started him with a screwball, so you know he knows he's a good hitter. He wasn't just going to go up there and give him a fastball. So Denny, who looks like he's all business, in the count 0-1. De Jesus at first with 2 out. 1-1, top of the second. There's the fastball.
These are kind of tough times for John Denny. He's from he lives in St. Louis now, but his family's from Prescott, Arizona, and we all know what a terrible tragedy going on in this great state of Arizona with all those floods, and his brother had some problems.
Last night, after last night's game, we had a slight inkling of what the good folks in Arizona must be going through with that torrential downpour here in Los Angeles. Denny is a great bunter, but of course with 2 out, he doesn't figure to be bunting. He sacrificed 17 times this year. I mean, he can get the ball down. He also had 14 hits. But Fernando's struggling now to count 2 balls and 1 strike. Dodgers scored in the first inning an unearned run, an error, a hit batter, and a base hit by Landreau, and Matthews' home run got Philadelphia even. 2-1 to Denny. Fastball popped up back of the plate. Jack Pimple coming back to the screen at the base of the screen, and it's on the other side. 2-2. Pimple's coach at Arizona State is here. They're talking about the flood in Arizona, and he is studying for his doctorate. And he was coming over, and he asked the police, if you have to evacuate my house, never mind the furniture, please get my books. I have about $4,000 worth of research that I want saved.
Jim Brock, huh?
That's
Sounds like him.
2-2. And the screwball is in the dirt. And Fernando now he is just a struggling left-hander. Meanwhile, Commissioner Bowie Kuhn in Peter O'Malley's box. 3-2. The count to John Denny. Brock is deep at first. He's not holding DeJesus, who will be going. DeJesus goes, and the fastball is lined in the left center. Baker is there. But Fernando isn't fooling people. A home run, a single, and a line drive out. And at the end of an inning and a half, the Phillies won and the Dodgers won.
You're about to see the Ford Ranger leap to new heights in quality. Based on a survey of owner-reported problems during the first 3 months, Ranger quality was unbeaten by any major small trucker. And Ranger has V6 power, more horsepower than Chevy S10 of the imports, and a wider cab than any small truck. For toughness, horsepower, and unbeaten quality, it's Ranger down-to-earth tough. The best-built American trucks are built. Ford Tough.
Looking good, Mr. McEnroe.
What are you, a comedian?
I meant your shave. It's very close.
Of course. I shave with Bic.
Yes, I've seen the commercial.
It's all true. Bic is beautiful, smooth, close, comfortable. How Bic does it for only 20 cents beats me.
And where do you spend all the money you save, Mr. McEnroe?
Tennis lessons.
Bic, the shave that saves.
Last August, undefeated John Collins stopped Ken Whetstone with a barrage of blows. Saturday, he's back. Will the Collins mix prove too strong for tough Tony Simpson? Plus, power on the water. The Gold Cup Unlimited Hydroplane Race. Only on NBC Sports World.
Right now, we pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC television network.
Go for the laps on Barney Miller tomorrow at 5 on 4.
In the bottom of the second inning, Bill Russell will start it off in a 1-1 tie. Russell, Pimple, and Valenzuela. Off speed for a strike. Bill Russell and Steve Yeager are the only Dodgers who have played on all 5 of the division winners since 1974. Waved at. Denny fooling him with a lot of motion and off-speed stuff in the count 0-2. John Denny, 19-game winner, and what a story. Tried to throw too hard, I think, that time anyway. 1-2. Dodgers got an unearned run. Landreau singled home Baker, who was aboard on the error, and Matthews homer to tie it up. And that got the corner. So Bill Russell caught looking.
Tommy Lasorda had a meeting in Cincinnati to turn the club around. I wondered if he had one before this game.
No, I did not have a meeting with the team per se, but I will talk to players individually about tonight's game and what we feel that they have to do in order for us to beat John Denny.
Well, here is one of the favorite stories of 1983 in Los Angeles, the rookie Jack Pimple, who takes a strike. Pimple called up from Albuquerque, playing with a broken hand, hit a home run, one of his 2. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. In the fall of 1980, Jack Pimple played on the same Cleveland Instructional League team as Von Hayes, who is, of course, now with Philadelphia. That's when Pimple became a catcher. When he graduated high school, he went in the Coast Guard for 3 years. He never really thought much about baseball as a career. 1-2 to Jack Pimple. And the fastball just missed.
Diaz is really giving the umpire behind the plate, Stello, a good look at all those pitches. Notice how he catches that ball and doesn't really try to steal it, just give him a good look.
Pimple slicing it foul down the right field line out of play, back into the crowd. 1-1 tie in the second inning.
Then they talk about a laid-back crowd here in L.A., but as soon as they tie it, the air goes out of the balloon, doesn't it?
That's right. Last night, they were very, very quiet because of Mike Schmidt's home run. They made a lot of noise in the first inning. Turned off on the home run by Matthews, and Pimple is turned off on the breaking ball. So that's the third strikeout for John Denny. And all of those strikeouts, the 3 of them, the hitters have been caught looking. His most strikeouts in a game, he had 10. That was in an August 9th no-decision game against Pittsburgh. And with 2 out, Fernando Valenzuela, pretty good hitting pitcher coming up. Fernando, home run, 9 RBIs, and 2 for 3 against Denny this year. Ball 1.
He's got pretty good power. I know he's got a couple of home runs, but in batting practice in that game he plays, he always pops one in the seats, it seems.
And he laid off an inside fastball, and the count 2-0. Bobby Wine, in talking about John Denny's fastball, said, I've noticed this year a lot of good hitters are swinging over the ball. There's ball 3. In other words, he has come up, it's not really a sinker, it is just a fastball that seems to dip, and it has really been a big part of his success. He's behind 3-0 to Valenzuela with 2 out. And he's walked him.
How do you explain that?
Remember that note we mentioned earlier? That Denny had walked only 6 batters in his last 9 starts. And in an inning and 2/3 tonight, he has walked a hitter and hit a batter. And Paul Owens and Bobby Wine and Claude Osteen wondering why.
And look at Osteen. He made a note of that right away. And I'm sure he'll be talking to him about it. I like what Paul Owens said. He was accused of managing this club by committee. He said, what am I supposed to do? Pay these guys to sit around and watch me be smart? Let them all work.
Well, here is Steve Sachs coming off a big night last night, but he flied to center first at bat. And, of course, Fernando kind of clogging the bases at first base. So Sachs has some of his speed taken away with Fernando's presence. 1-1, bottom of the second inning, 2 out. Off speed, look at that. He clinched and the bottom dropped out of it. 0-1. Steve Sachs, Rookie of the Year last year, has picked up and had a fine sophomore year. Little breaking ball hit wide to third. Here comes Mike Schmidt and gets him. So a walk to Fernando, and they leave him. No runs, no hits, a man left. The Dodgers have left 3. It's a 1-1 tie at the end of 2. And we'll be back after these messages from your local station.
For the Detroit suburb of Oak Park, the melting pot is a new reality. Find out what happens when cultures combine in My Little Town on News 4 Suburban Bureau Extra tomorrow night at 6.
Every business day at 7 a.m., American Airlines takes off for New York with the first nonstop of the morning. From Detroit to New York's LaGuardia. And continues all day to New York with 7 more nonstops. Until 8 o'clock at night. Just like clockwork.
It's one of my bigger days.
Let me buy a beer.
Sure. These fans, I love them. When I came in, they didn't recognize me at first, but then when I told them who I was, next thing you know, they're buying me my favorite beer, light beer from Miller. They know us ex-big leaguers drink light because it's got a third less calories than their regular beer. It's less filling, and it tastes great. Thanks.
Hey, it's a pleasure to buy a beer for a great pitcher like Whitey Ford.
Hey.
So I lied. Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Hey, Whitey, I thought you were a lefty. Oh, that's right.
Say, isn't that a new Cutlass Sierra?
A Cutlass Sierra Detroiter.
A Detroiter?
A special limited edition from the real people, the greater Detroit Olds dealers.
Yeah?
Yeah, with wire wheel covers, pinstriping, and a handy luggage rack.
Sounds expensive.
No, the extra features are all included in the attractive price.
Those features? An attractive price? Why, all America's going to want a Cutlass Sierra Detroiter.
They may want one, but they'll have to come to one of the real people to get one.
Real people.
Go for the Joker's Wild tomorrow night at 7 on Channel 4.
NBC Sports has it right in the pocket of the mitt. The second game of the National League Championship Series. Having already given you the American League story today as the White Sox nip Baltimore 2-1.
Interesting, too, Vin. At the same point last night, Carlton had made 19 pitches, Royce 20. Tonight, Fernando's already made 41 pitches, and Denny has made 40.
It's quite a contrast. Of course, everything about this series is so interesting, the contrast aspect of it. As we told you, Fernando started off the season great, 8-2, and then turned around under 500. Denny was struggling, and then all of a sudden, he was almost unbeatable. It went 13-1. Joe Morgan. Then Pete Rose and Mike Schmidt. Morgan has struggled against Dodger pitching during the regular year. But the little guy known to perform miracles under pressure, he thought that was high. Strike one. Muttering to Stello.
40 years old, my foot.
0-1. And another one over for a strike.
Kind of a tough day for Joe. The funeral of a good friend who coached him, Mr. McRae, and he was talking about it before the game and hoping he would be here.
Here's the strike two pitch, a little Joe. Outside ball one. He's come a long way. You know, in the middle of September, you hate to even talk about it, he was last in the National League in hitting. And then on his 40th birthday, he found the fountain of youth. 1-2. Got it. So Fernando picks up his second strikeout. He had gotten Mike Schmidt in the first inning, and that'll bring up Pete Rose. You know, when you see a Morgan who is 40 and a Rose, and there's so much talk about age, keep one thing in mind about the big leagues now. There are approximately 75 players in the big leagues right now who are over 35 years of age. Ground ball foul. So the game has really changed. It is not for the young, as Dave Bristol makes a good play.
Morgan, with his Wheeze kids before, kind of letting you know. In fact, he told one writer, he said, you don't play this game by hitting with a birth certificate.
Here's the strike one pitch to Pete, who certainly doesn't, and that's in there. 0-2. Rose, among all of the other accomplishments, is the only player ever to play 500 or more games at 5 different positions. A remarkable man. 0-2. Fastball low, and he was at the ballpark early. You know why? So he could watch the Chicago White Sox-Baltimore game.
And just as a caption, Pete says when you're over, you're 40 like I am, you go into a slump, you say, oh, he's getting old, he's losing his reflexes. You go in the same slump when you're young, you say, well, he'll snap out of it.
That's true. Aspect. Check swing, soft line drive to Fernando. Line drive really only to describe the trajectory.
I talked to Mike Schmidt and asked him what kind of pitches he expected from Fernando. Here's what he said.
Well, I hope to be able to get a fastball to hit each time I go up there. The key, I think, not only to myself, but to all the right-handed hitters on the Phillies, is to take advantage of the fastball when you get it. So if you see Fernando throw fastball to our right-handed hitters and we foul it off, or we swing and miss it, or we take it, then we got to fight that hard screwball and his other 3 pitches. So the key is to put that fastball in play when you get it.
So Mike Schmidt, looking for the fastball, takes outside, ball 1. We have 2 out, top of the 3rd inning, a 1-1 tie. For Mike, the 3rd year he has hit at least 40 home runs. And of course he broke the seal on the series last night. 1 ball and no strikes. 2-0. On deck, Sixto Lezcano.
As you see from the center field shot, that fastball that he's talking about looking for, Fernando's got to get it right in at the belt buckle. And Schmidt is striding towards the plate, not towards the pitch, because he wants to keep that left shoulder locked, so he keeps it in play. It's a tough pitch coming up.
2-0. And he threw him a screwball, and it got the outside part of the plate. 2-1.
Well, Mike is still looking for number 1, ain't he?
Where is it? What do the players say, although it doesn't sound very grammatical? They call it sitting on or setting on.
Sitting on, yeah.
2-1. There's the fastball, but he got it in a perfect spot, in on the hands.
That's where he has to get it, and he's got to tie him up. Otherwise, he'll be backing up third if he lets this big guy get his arms out there, because he'll drive it.
Dodger Stadium, the scene of Game 2. It is not a multi-purpose stadium. It was built by private funds for one sport, baseball. And it looks it. 2-2 to Mike. Fastball. And he wasn't quite ready. What did he say about the fastball fouling off, and then you're going to get the hard screwball?
A hard screwball or one of the other 3 pitches. Fernando thought he'd get it by him, and Mike just didn't quite get it. It's a pretty good battle right here. It's a tough thing to ask a pitcher that if he's going to throw a fastball, that the target is the belt buckle of a big guy like this who can hit it out of any ballpark in America.
2-2. And a high fly ball to left field, but it's playable. Baker indicates he has it, and he's true to his word. So Philadelphia out in order, 1-2-3. And at the end of 2.5 innings, the Phillies a run on 2 hits, the Dodgers a run on 1 hit, and ain't it glad to be a kid and be in a league championship game.
While Atari keeps trying to sell you new systems like the 5200, with ColecoVision you only need one system, because ColecoVision expands to give you a Super Action controller set with Super Action Baseball, a driving module with turbo, an expansion module to play all Atari 2600 games, and only ColecoVision expands to become Atom, the complete family computer system. Plus, you get $150 in vacation savings certificates if you buy ColecoVision now. Sorry, Atari.
Do I smell roast duck?
For tonight, our anniversary.
Yeah, great.
Phil. The Bell Yellow Pages talks when your fingers do the walking. You save trouble and time.
Leslie's Flowers. We get there fresh.
How about fast?
And fast.
You remembered.
I ordered the flowers after you started the duck.
So I burned the duck after you ordered the flowers.
Get the Yellow Pages talking.
Fresh and fast.
Let your fingers do the walking.
You know, I've made an important decision. I think it's time I gave up this surfing life. I mean, I still go to the beach just about every day. Then I just hang out, drinking light beer from Miller. Not getting filled up and grooving on light's great taste. But maybe it is time I tried to make something of myself. Time I gave all this up and went out, got a real job. Nah.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Should be on a calendar, a 9-year-old wearing glasses and a big baseball cap. It has to be big to fill up all those dreams. Isn't that
a great picture.
Oh, I love it.
That's a great...
Back to the big kids. Greg Brock will start it off. 0-1. Brock, interestingly enough, hit a home run in every park his rookie year, except in Pittsburgh. Ironically, the same was true for Mike Schmidt. 1-1 to Greg. Brock stopped hitting home runs the 7th of September. 1-1. Big chopper down to second. Morgan was ready to jump in the air. Remember last night that ball went over his head. He was all poised to jump, but it stayed down. One away.
Of course, with that glove Joe's got, he's got the smallest glove in baseball. It's a... Dick Bartell at the All-Star game showed me his glove. It's about that size. I know guys that drive buses that wear bigger gloves than that.
Yeah, that might even be smaller than Bill Mazeroski's glove, and I always thought that was the smallest ever. But this one literally fits like a glove.
It really does.
Here's Baker fouling it off. Dusty was aboard on the error by DeJesus, and it turned out to be very important. He took second when Guerrero was hit by a pitch, and he rode home as Landreau grounded up the middle for a base hit. So we're 1-1, bottom of the 3rd inning. On a very pleasant evening as far as the weather is concerned. Ball hit to Gary Maddox. End of story, 2 down. Oh, we saw a very exciting Chicago White Sox Baltimore Orioles game. Baltimore wrapped up until 2 out in the 9th when they got a run, but it wasn't enough, and the White Sox won it 2-1. Game 2 in the American League Championship Series tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Tony Kubek and Bob Costas right there to tell it to you. And, of course, then we will pick up the story in the National League, 3 p.m. Eastern Time Friday afternoon. 2 down, and here's Guerrero. Ball 1. Guerrero hit by a pitch, big off-speed pitch. That tied him up. He didn't know what to do with that thing. 1 ball, 1 strike. When you look at John Denny, it's only right, I guess, to expect a fastball because he's a big man. He's 6'3", and very well put together. In fact, his teammates say he might very well be the strongest man in the league at 6'3" and 190. 1 ball and 1 strike to Pedro Guerrero. 2 out, 3rd inning, 1-1 tie. He shows him the fastball, but he keeps it out of the strike zone.
And that is really good pitching. And you notice Diaz, he didn't jerk the ball. He just held it right there and gave him a good look. And now he's working too fast, and Guerrero's going to slow him up. You got the kind of stuff that Denny has or Carlton. Why fool around? Bob Gibson, they got the ball, throw it.
Yeah. They used to say the rookies pitch too fast. They get the ball and throw out a nervous energy, but not anymore. Now it seems to be the thing to do. 2-1 pitch. That's in there, and it was a fastball. Pedro couldn't believe he was going to get another one. Not for a strike anyway. And the count 2-2.
He's got Pedro thinking up there, and you get a hitter doing that, you can put his brain into a Windsor knot.
And back with the junk, and he's out in front of it. And a little pop fly to left, and DeJesus will take care of it. So Denny really doing a masterful bit of pitching there in the 3rd inning, and the Dodgers tiptoe through the 3rd. And at the end of 3, the Phillies a run on 2 hits. Actually, a home run by Gary Matthews. The Dodgers 1 run, 1 hit. It's unearned.
Hate it when she's right. Look at her sleeping. We both have colds. She said we need NyQuil at nighttime, sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, so we can rest medicine, darling. I said I'll stick with my time capsules. I'm still coughing, aching, feverish, wide awake. Sleeping Beauty took NyQuil. When she's right, she's right.
NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, so you can rest medicine.
The Smart Set, Zenith's Advanced System 3. Look inside and you'll find Zenith's exclusive computer brain. It helps make this the smartest Zenith color set ever. Look inside the Z100, Zenith's most sophisticated desktop computer, and you'll find Zenith design and component expertise there too. The Z100s are easy to use and expandable. Zenith desktop computers and Zenith color television. What they have in common is Zenith quality. It goes into everything we make.
Get rid of your old muffler. The new Arrestor Plus muffler is now on sale at Kmart K-Care Auto Centers for just $19.88 install, and it's warranted for as long as you own your car. Kmart's best 4-ply tire is on sale, too, starting at $29, and it has a 25,000-mile wear-out warranty. Service, value, satisfaction. At K-Care Auto Centers, that's a promise we make, and we make good.
Joe Rohner could manage his team.
Knock it off!
But could he manage another man's wife?
Don't you ever humiliate me like that again.
From the producer of Hill Street, Bay City Blues.
Do you have a comment to make about the fact that they say bald-headed men have more male hormones than those with hair?
The preceding announcement was...
I'm just trying to make you feel good.
No. No.
4th inning, a 1-1 tie. Sixto Lescano takes a hook for a strike, and the count 0-1.
Berman.
1 ball and 1 strike to count. Lescano, Matthews, and Maddox were in the 4th inning. Gary Matthews homered in the 2nd. Kenny Landros singled home a run in the 1st. And into the 4th we go. Ball 2, 2-1.
You might take note of where Fernando stands on the mound with the right-hand batter. He's on the 3rd base side of that rubber. It gives him a pretty good shot at the screwball. It gives him just a little better angle.
2-1 to Lescano. Fastball chopped to 3rd. Guerrero is there. Easily to Brock, 1 away. It is a magnificent time of day here on the West Coast. It's about 6:23 local time. The sun slowly dipping over the horizon. And the cloud work overhead, a little bit left over from Hurricane Priscilla, we understand. And fortunately, not affecting the play down on the field at Dodger Stadium. There's room for over 16,000 cars in the terrace parking area. It's really quite a place to see, and we're not trying to be provincial. Here is Gary Matthews, and he lifts it to straightaway center, and that's Landro country. And that'll be that. 2 down.
I'll say one thing, though. Last night with that rain, getting out of this parking lot was like demolition derby.
Oh, it was awful. So Gary Matthews, who homered in the second inning to account for the Philadelphia run. Gives way now to Gary Maddox, who singled to left field in the second inning. Interestingly, in checking the speed gun on Fernando, remember we told you when Matthews homered, he hit an 87-mile-per-hour fastball, and that's a little high for him. Ever since that home run, he's been throwing around 83. So he might have overthrown that one pitch, and it cost him. Ball one. Gary Maddox, including his base hit tonight, is 5 for 10 against Fernando as Basgol, Lasorda, and Peranowski sweated out. Ball two. I would think all the pressure, Joe, would be on the Dodgers. They would appear to have to win tonight.
Oh, they have to, because as Tom Seaver was talking about, I can't see him going back to Veterans Stadium and sweeping 3.
Here's a 2-0 pitch. 2-1, especially against a ball club that won 50 games at home, even though the Dodgers did go in there and win 5 out of 6 in the regular season. Boy, 50, that's great. The Dodgers, by the way, won 48 here. Ground ball inside third and down the line, so Maddox wearing out Fernando. He's 6 for 11. And by the time Baker picks it up, he has himself a stand-up double at second base, and he's 2 for 2 tonight.
It looked like a curveball, a slow curveball inside, and he stayed with it. Watch it. There it is. It's inside, right past Guerrero, and it's a cinch 2-base hit.
Guerrero appeared to start a little bit late on the ball, too, which is a problem in this ballpark. When Dodger Stadium was built, it was copied a little bit from an idea they have at Korakuen Stadium in Tokyo, the so-called dugout seats, which are literally seats where your eyes are level with the ground. Here now is Bo Diaz, ball one. And you can see Mike Brito directly behind home plate in the white jacket and the Panama hat. And the speed gun right alongside the TV camera. 1 ball and no strikes. The screwball way outside. So he's 2-0 to Diaz. There's Mike. He's got a cigar you could hit 300 with it.
Yeah, there's some cigar.
Looks like an old pine tree he found somewhere. 2-0. Mike, of course, is primarily responsible for finding Fernando. Fernando from Echequia. In fact, to quote the golf writer Bernard Darwin, Fernando came from the back of beyond. The fastball to strike, 2-1. Bo Diaz, who grounded into a double play in the second inning, trying to pick up Gary Maddox with 2 out in the fourth in a 1-1 tie. Half swing, they'll check it first. No swing, says Big John. 3-1 to count to Bo Diaz. At second base, Gary Maddox. 1-1 in the fourth. Phillies 1 run, 3 hits. The Dodgers 1 run, 1 hit. And the fastball is in there. I'm surprised Diaz took that pitch, aren't you?
I think that it was just too good a pitch. He was looking for something inside, and Fernando laid it right on that outside corner because it looks like he's not going to give him that good ball to hit.
3-2 the count to Bo. And a screwball is hit just foul outside of third. When Diaz was with the Cleveland Indians in 1981, it's hard to believe, but it's true, he hit 7 home runs. That was tops on the team. Bo Diaz. He hit 15 this year. 3-2. Fastball. He was a little late and poked it. Foul down the right field line. It'll drop untouched. So that was a case of a good pitch, but as you pointed out earlier, Joe, Diaz throwing his bat at one to get a piece of it, and that time he just did nick it.
He just did nick it and saved himself a strikeout. Valenzuela has made up his mind that he's got an option of either pitching to Diaz or DeJesus, who's coming up next. He's got first base open, and then pitching to Diaz, he's going to make him hit his pitch. He's not going to give in to him.
3-2. Fastball. Big chopper. Russell waiting for the hop. Sets for the throw. Gets him. And they leave Maddox at second base. No runs. 1 hit. Gary's doubled. And they leave him. And at the end of 3.5 innings, the Phillies won. The Dodgers won. And the rosin bag ain't talking.
One computer company has been shaping the way business does business for 99 years, NCR. Today, NCR High Technology puts computer power where business needs it most. Computer power that helps shoppers check out faster as it controls a supermarket's inventory. Computer power to provide banking services 24 hours every day. NCR, shaping the way business does business.
Nearly 4 hours. That's how long it took us to paint this room with a roller. Then we painted it in less than 1 hour with the new Wagner Power Roller. A living room that took nearly 7 hours. The Wagner Power Roller finished in less than 3. The Power Roller pumps paint straight from the can to the roller or to any of several optional accessories. Why waste your time painting a pan when you could be painting your walls instead? The Wagner Power Roller, the right tool for painting.
The way Thunderbird looks has a great deal to do with how it drives. The shape of the front helps the driver feel the road. The shape of the doors and mirrors smooths and quiets the air. The shape of the rear helps press the tires to the pavement. Thunderbird, the way it looks, improves the way it drives. Have you driven the best-built American cars? Have you driven a Ford lately?
NFL 83 is coming at you with pro football's very best. The Bills from Buffalo take on the AFC champion Dolphins, and the New York Jets blast off against the tough Cleveland Browns, plus hard-hitting regional action, only on NBC.
Chuck Connors with his Brooklyn Dodger hat on. Former Dodger player, you'll see him in Yellow Rose Sunday at 10 o'clock. Chuck, by his own admission, hit the Los Angeles area code one year, 213.
Here's Kenny Landreau, who had a base hit to drive in a run. 1-1, bottom of the fourth. Landreau, Marshall, and Russell. Breaking ball missed. So he's behind 2-0 is John Denny. Here's another case of the hitter having given the pitcher a bad time during the year. Right, 2-1.
Through 4 innings, Fernando's made 71 pitches, 43 strikes. Denny has made 53 pitches, and he's got 32 strikes.
The 2-1 pitch. Waved at the off-speed pitch, and the bottom again dropped out of it. 2-2. One tie in the fourth inning. Big chopper foul outside of first down the line.
I tell you, Vin, I guess maybe, sure, I played and all that, but it's amazing to me now. Landreau got a base hit on a fastball, and he has seen nothing that he can hit with the fastball. Breaking balls, off-speed breaking balls. Sign of a good pitcher.
Now let's see what he gets 2-2. Look at Denny spinning that ball around behind his back. And Landreau tired of waiting. When Carlton throws his slider, he puts 2 fingers lengthwise on the seam, so the ball is a little bit off balance. Off the center. There's a ground ball up the middle, and it was off speed, and Landreau is able to wait on it and roll it to center. So
that was a good piece of hitting by Kenny Landreau, sending it right back up. Here's Denny on that pitch. Now he's in pretty good shape to field it. He goes for it. He just does not get it, and in the center field for a base hit. But he was ready for it if it would have come right back to him.
He's 6'3", so he can climb the ladder. Here's Mike Marshall, who is 6'5". He gives you a good strike zone. Marshall does not sacrifice. Let's put it this way. He has not sacrificed this year. If you're thinking about that possibility. Of course, then you have Russell and Pimple to follow. Marshall had 17 home runs, 65 RBIs. And boy, they're really keeping an eye on Landreau. Landreau this year stole 30 bases while being caught only 11 times.
It's a good move that Denny gives you. It's a quick move, and he's got you diving back. There are a couple ways to stop those base runners. One of them is to keep throwing over there. That's the 3rd time that Landreau's had to dive. That'll take a little spring out of your legs. And the other way is to just hold that ball. Now, Landreau, watch him study the pitcher. Look at those eyes.
Fouled away. Marshall trying to crank up on an off-speed pitch. Fouled it off. Landreau last year stole 31 bases. That was his career high. He came back this year with 30. But he's really stolen a lot more, considering the fact he's had a bad leg and he hasn't had very many opportunities to run in the latter part of the year. 0-1.
What a lot of base runners will study will be the left side of the pitcher. Once he starts any movement on the left side, and then they look at that right heel. If it doesn't go up, away they go.
He was leaning back to first, and the pitch fouled back. So Landreau has not been able to read Denny at all, not indicated by that last pitch.
There's much controversy about the stolen base. It doesn't win as many games as it's supposed to, but make no mistake about it, I don't care about anything. When you've got speed, you got the other ball club thinking, the catcher thinks fastball, infielders are moving, it just stirs it up. It makes everybody move.
0-2, the count of Marshall. Landreau at first, fourth inning, a 1-1 tie. Fastball hit by the mound, backhanded by Morgan. He's going to tag the bag and get the force on Landreau.
JoJo's not happy. Look at him.
Yeah.
They had some confusion on that play. Obviously, watch it now. Drove it right past Denny, who thought he had it for a minute. Now, Morgan's ready to flip it to DeJesus, and whoops, you take it, I got it, and he just barely gets Landreau. One more look. There was Morgan ready to flip it, and he says, oh, man, nobody there. I better get it myself. And look at Pete Rose.
So we'll see now, with that little mistake around second base, if it turns out to be a pivotal play or not. Bill Russell, the batter. Russell struck out in the second. Big breaking curve outside. Ball 1-0. Russell, a contact hitter. They usually put plays on with him. And Marshall, despite the fact he is 6'5" and a big man, runs well. So they could put on a hit-and-run play. 1-0. He wanted to pull the trigger and almost fell down holding up.
2 breaking balls. Now he's way ahead. 2 balls and no strikes. With a slow curveball like that, I'm sure Lasorda would like to pick a pitch, but if he ever had an ideal situation, it would be here. A control pitcher behind 2-0. Russell not known as a home run hitter. I'd look for something to happen right here.
2-0. Marshall doesn't go, and the pitch is ball 3. You know, it was typical of Russell's career. His only home run of the year came with 2 out in the top of the 9th in Cincinnati. It turned a 2-1 loss into a 3-2 win for Lasorda. And that's a strike. It also came 5 days after the death of Bill Russell's father.
Russell giving him Alpatano a good look to see what's happening. Does he want something? 3-1?
Figures now Marshall might go. And Denny's off the rubber. Russell, over the years, has been a difficult hitter to strike out. So let's see if they turn him. No, they don't. And there's a little pop fly to shallow right. That's going to be trouble. It'll fall. Marshall keeps on going. Lescano's throw is not in time.
You really have to give Marshall a lot of credit on that, because Lescano does have a good arm, and Marshall, he watched the ball and decided it was not going to be caught, and he took off. Watch Marshall. He's barreling. He never does look at the coach. The play was in front of him. He knew it was going to drop, and he just took off. That was a good piece of base running.
A bloop single to right, and Lescano was just too far away to reasonably expect to make the play. But, of course, he did keep the ball down, so it could be cut off, and Russell had to stay at first. I just heard Diaz say I could read his lips for 2 words. He said, no mistakes. Now, remember, there was a mistake around second base with Morgan and DeJesus, and we'll see just how important that is.
And I know a lot of pitchers would say, sure, easy for you to say no mistakes.
Yeah, you go behind the plate and tell me don't make any mistakes.
That's right. You get back there, dummy.
Well, here is Jack Pimple, a kid who did well in pressure situations in the last 2 months of the season. He hit .333 with men in scoring position. That's the highest of any Dodger in the last 2 months. 0-1.
You know, it's one of the things you think about as a catcher. There's 1 man out. You put a play on here, a bunt play, and the worst you get out of it is second and third and 2 outs. The double play is what you want us to stay away from. So you got to think of all that.
You know, one thing, it wouldn't surprise anybody in town if Pimple tried to squeeze. That is one of Lasorda's favorite plays. Strike 1 pitch, they're going to pitch out just in case. They're thinking of it.
I was thinking about that, because the worst you come out of it is second and third and 2 outs.
1-1. The count of Jack Pimple with Marshall at third. And, of course, Marshall will tell you if the squeeze is on. He has got to break just as the pitcher is releasing the ball. Otherwise, you have a busted squeeze. 1-1. And there's the bunt, but it's not a squeeze, and I'll tell you why. Mike Schmidt put a great fake on Marshall just as Denny was delivering, and Mike was frozen. So a very, very heads-up play by Mike Schmidt.
It's one of those subtle plays that happen, but in a spot like this, you would figure the one thing Lasorda doesn't want is there's the replay. You see Schmidt starting to come in. The ball is bunted foul, but Lasorda doesn't want a bunted squeeze, and it could be one of those plays where you want to see that ball on the ground before you break the home plate and make sure the ball is down on the ground.
Now 1-2, you would expect Trimble to be just trying to hit the ball anywhere. But Russell at first, Marshall at third, one out in the fourth, a 1-1 tie. Fast one, and it's just off the corner. Denny shook his head. I think John thought he might have had a piece of it, but Stello said no. Russell held on by Rose. Marshall down the line from third. 2-2 to Jack Pimple. One out. Russell goes. The pitch is high. The throw to Morgan. They've got Russell hung up. Morgan keeps looking at Marshall. Now he's going after Marshall, and he bounces it to Diaz. Diaz will fake and underhand to Smitty, who'll tag him out. And safely at second is Russell. So if it was a delayed double steal, Marshall did not seem to come at the right time, but Russell was going on the pitch.
Russell was looking to see what would happen. He wanted to draw the throw, which he did. Now, he does the right thing by going back, and Marshall has to make Morgan commit. Morgan sees that he's got Marshall hung up. Here's where the Phillies get a break. Diaz makes a good play on the bad throw. Marshall thought it would get by him, and now Diaz runs him back. And look at Marshall try to reach Diaz, and if he touches him, he claims interference. But he tried to grab him, and the third base umpire says, no way, no way.
So the play goes 2-4, 2-5. From Diaz to Morgan to Diaz to Schmidt. Mike Marshall still hot. He's also hung out to dry between third and home. Now 3-2, Russell at second with two out, and we still have a 1-1 tie. Slow curve hit at Morgan, and he goes up the ladder to grab it. So the Phillies get away with a couple of plays, including the confusion at second base. The Dodgers, with two base hits, come up empty. They leave one. And at the end of four, a 1-1 tie. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
A loving family, a missing child. Every parent's fear becomes the movie you must see. Daniel J. Travati in
Adam!
Monday.
As a relief pitcher, everybody thought I had it easy. See Pat here? He'd pitch his heart out for 8 innings or so, and then I'd come in, toss 3 or 4 pitches, and walk away with a win. But I had to train just like the rest of us. Yeah, well, I still like to keep in shape, and I drink light beer from Miller. See, light's less filling, and light really tastes great. Will you just let me finish? Why? You never let me finish.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Let me finish that for you, Sparky.
The Wall Street Journal is written for busy people. It doesn't waste your time with what you don't want to know. Make sure that you don't miss anything you have to know. Accurate, to the point, complete. The Wall Street Journal. It's all here.
Get all the business news you need when you need it. Get the Wall Street Journal. Delivered for 6 months for $47. Phone toll-free 800-228-3131. That's 6 months, $47, only 37 cents a day. Phone 800-228-3131 now.
Local rejoicing over Lech Wałęsa's honor. We'll have the story after the game.
Here's the play again, and you'll see where Marshall thinks he has interference. Now Diaz running him back, and Marshall now sees, uh-oh, I'm in no man's land. Diaz gives the ball third base. Watch Marshall try to grab Diaz as he goes down. Right there. If he could have just hit me, Marshall says, we would have had interference. But he does not, and Stello's right on top of that play. And they both call it. Look at that right hand. No doubt about it. And look at Stello. He's going to go after him. No, Mike. Forget it. I called it. You're out.
And we go to the 5th inning. Now that the dust is settled, a 1-1 tie. Ivan De Jesus, followed by John Denny, and then Joe Morgan.
Vin, does that tell you something about the things that Lasorda will try to score a run? They've been hard to come by.
Oh, yeah. They have been desperate of late.
Squeezing a double steal in the same inning.
De Jesus walked in the 2nd inning, and he bunts foul, so it's catching 0-1. You remember last night, The Dodgers in the first inning had sacked Single and immediately had Russell tried to sacrifice. So the number 2 hitter was sacrificing last night, indicative of the way the Dodgers have been playing throughout the month of September. Of all the division winners, the Dodgers were the ones who struggled the most. For instance, in the American League, Baltimore and Chicago literally breezed in, especially Chicago. Half swing, and he didn't get it, and Fimple didn't catch it, and DeJesus is safely aboard at first base.
Watching Fimple's reaction, he thought he had that ball. Had to watch and see what happened. Take a look at it.
The pitcher, John Jay.
It hit in front of the plate right through the wicket. Look at him. He thought, where'd it go?
Yeah, it's really skidded instead of bouncing. If it bounces, it hits him and it blocks it, but it's skidded.
That's why you got to get down on those knees, and that's the play that you practice. I know it sounds silly for a grown man to sit there and have another guy bounce balls that bounce off your chest, but you have to practice it.
Let's see what Denny does. Remember, we told you he's a very, very good bunter, and he fouls it away on 1. 17 sacrifices. In fact, the next on the staff, Carlton, had a half a dozen. So John really knows how to bunt. We'll see if he's able to execute against Fernando.
Boy, as hard as they're charging him, where do you think he'll try to bunt that ball? I think he'll make Brock field it, but Brock, he's fearless when it comes to throwing to get that lead man.
Yeah, he has an excellent arm. So we'll see now an interesting point in a 1-1 tie in the 5th inning. John is bunting and got it down, as he usually does, and Fimple has to throw to Sachs. So for the 18th time, you talk about helping yourself. No wonder he's won 19 games.
He fields his position. He holds the runners close. He hits the ball when he has to. More importantly, he bunts. Now, the importance of that, sure, you move the man in scoring position, but you stay away from that inning-ending double play. The good ball clubs, they stay away from the double play on offense, and they keep it in play on defense, and that's how you win.
Well, here's Joe, who grounded out and struck out 0 for 2. Top of the 5th inning, 1 run, 3 hits, and an error for Philadelphia. 1 run, 3 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. A home run in the game by Gary Matthews. So DeJesus, who runs well, is at second base with 1 out. Ball 1, 1-0. By the way, if you're keeping score, DeJesus struck out on a wild pitch and reached. 1-0. Ball 2. So Fernando spinning a big rainbow curveball that time and almost got that one in the dirt. 2-0 to Morgan, and on deck Pete Rose. Remember, Rose has a 50-point difference in batting average to the good as a right-handed batter. Big chopper foul, and the count 2-1. So DeJesus back to second. Stello, the plate umpire, as you see Pete Rose. McSherry, Wire, and Harvey on the bases. Jerry Crawford on the left field foul line, and Terry Tate on the right field foul line. 2 balls and 1 strike to Little Joe. Fastball, and he hits it down the left field line out of play. Back in the crowd, 2-2. Morgan, of course, was hurting this year. He had 2 hamstring pulls. He went on the disabled list in May. And even before this league championship series began, he had a sore back. He flew home to Oakland. He was examined. And they told him he was okay, and here he is. At one point this year, and he'd sure like to forget it, he went 0 for 35. Fisted foul. Good fastball in on the thumbs. So Fernando working on Morgan and vice versa. DeJesus at second, 1 out, 1-1 in the 5th. Jack Fimple handling Fernando. Three and 2. Morgan, of course, has more walks than anyone in National League history. So it figures he's also has the most walks in league championship series games. 3 and 2. Fastball, foul back.
I asked him about that habit he used to have, that little chicken wing thing he used to do. He's not doing it. He says, well, I don't know. I guess I'm not as relaxed as I should be. He said, I do it sometimes, and I don't do it others. A lot of times, every other time I'd see him play, he'd always have that thing going at left hand. Remember?
An elbow would beat his left rib cage to bits while he waited. There it is. It's not there anymore.
Not there.
Oh, one little one. 3-2. Screwball high. So the incredible walking man, Joe Morgan, at 5'7", picks up a walk as the Dodger bench studies him. And Pete Rose coming up. No, it's amazing that Morgan has averaged better than 100 walks a year in 17 full seasons in the major leagues. And I would guess being 5'7" has something to do with it, along with tremendous discipline. But now, here's Rose.
And also the fear of what would happen if you throw him just a lollipop strike.
Yeah, that's right, with his power. Rose estimates that he failed to start over 40 games this year. And for him, that's like having a season off. That's a strike. And in the month of September, what a crucial month as you look at DeJesus at second and Morgan at first. How crucial September was for Philadelphia. And yet Rose started only 9 of the 28 games before it was clinched. 1-1 the count. Rose, in his entire career, has 1 grand slam. They came back in 1964 against a pitcher by the name of Dallas Green. 1-1. Fernando laboring a little here. Fastball, and he missed outside with it. Ball 2. So in the Dodger bullpen, the long man tonight is Joe Beckwith. Fernando has walked 3. His strikeout was a wild pitch, and now Zachary has joined Beckwith. 2-1 to Rose. Screwball and a chopper to Russell. He goes back to Sachs. On to Brock. Double play. Barely, but they got it.
That was a good play on the part of Russell to come in and get that big hop. Morgan really with a chance to get Sachs. Sachs once again a lot of guts to hang in or get rid of that ball and then get out of the way. Good play.
So the Dodgers get out of the jam, and at the end of 4 1/2, Philadelphia won, and the Dodgers won.
For years now, we've been kidding Jim here about his eyesight. The fact is that Jim has the eyes of an eagle.
Thanks, Boo.
Why, he's one of the first guys to spot light beer from Miller. Saw right away that light tastes great and it's less filling.
Sure, all you have to do is read the label. It says light has 1/3 less calories than a regular beer.
I think you want this, Jim.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
As I was saying, it's the same as the nose on your face.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Oh, I don't believe this. 30.
Every 6 months, American Airlines pilots fly thousands of miles.
Yeah, let's try it in daylight.
Without ever leaving this room. A flight simulator at the American Airlines Flight Academy. Captain Jim Roberts has been with American 18 years, but he still comes back here twice a year. We taught Captain Roberts a lot, but some things we didn't have to teach him.
Hi.
American Airlines, doing what we do best.
Shooting on location is a real challenge. But how good a picture is can depend on how good the paper is it's printed on.
That's why the photographers I know use Kodak paper. Not just for the pictures we earn our living with, but for personal pictures, like these. Because what a picture says on the back says a lot about how it looks on the front.
Kodak paper. The only way to be sure you get it is to ask for it at a retailer displaying this new sign.
You talk about wheeze kids or 40 years old, watch Pete Rose. He knows that might be a double play. Now he knows that's a double play ground ball. Look at him dig. Watch this last step. He gives you what he's got.
That's quite a story. 42-year-old Pete Rose hits into a double play, erasing 40-year-old Morgan. Valenzuela drives one to right center. Gary Maddox juggles, drops it, falls down. Fernando is going to go for 3. The relay, he's in there. Well, we better take another look at that one because Gary Maddox doesn't juggle and drop many.
He knew he'd hit the ball hard, and Maddox really had to make a long run. He's got the ball in his glove, but you see he gets tied up. It pops out. Down he goes, and Fernando, when he rounds second base, now watch him run. That tells him I hit the ball good, but around second base, near there is when he throws the wheel. I mean, he's about ready to head for the pitch right here. Oh, he's got to go another base, and here he comes. And he's about had it. The cork is flying, he's leaking oil, but he makes it.
He made it, and Gary Maddox, 8 consecutive gold gloves, will get an error on the play.
I think one of the things is that he didn't know exactly where he was. He thought he was closer to the wall than he actually was, and when he hit the warning track, he stumbled. Fernando may have pulled something. You could see when he was rounding second base that he about threw a gear because he was huffing and puffing. He was definitely leaking oil when he rounded second, I'll tell you.
Well, that's Dodger trainer Bill Bueller along with Tommy Lasorda and Joe Amalfitano. And the third base umpire, Doug Harvey, and Fernando evidently says he is okay. And again, we point out what is driving Paul Owens to distraction. First, though, let's watch Fernando.
Watch here. There he goes. He's trying to come up with that second effort, and down he goes. It's the slide up and down, and it was the right leg they were concerned about. But anyway, you look at it, he's a third. Nobody out.
The infield up on the right side, halfway on the left. Sachs is not a particularly good bunter, nor is he a particularly good man on a fly ball to get somebody home. You know, Steve Sachs last year and this year did not have a sacrifice fly until a month ago. None of them. Fouled away, 0-1. Steve is also not a great bunter, so I'm sure they're not going to have Fernando doing any more maneuvering on the base path.
No, I think they're going to say, stay here, make sure the ball is through if it's hit on the ground, and deep enough if it's in the air. No trick plays here. Nobody out.
DeJesus and Morgan are halfway. That's off the plate. 1-1. Sachs flied to center, grounded to third. The point we were going to make, the Phillies continue to make errors against the Dodgers. They've made 16 errors now in 13 games against the Dodgers for whatever reason. Big chopper, that'll keep Fernando at third base. So Sachs is not usually the man to pick him up. And now it'll be Greg Brock.
I was surprised, Vin, that they played the infield in with Fernando's speed. And I would have picked up the percentage of playing back, but of course the outs, that's academic.
Yeah, they kind of split the difference a little bit. Morgan was about halfway on that. So 1 down. Now here's Brock. As you see, 0 for 2. Now Brock, as far as lifting the ball out of the infield against Philadelphia this year, he did not play that much and did not have a scoring fly ball. And looks at a strike. During the regular year, he had 4. Brock, of course, really stopped hitting home runs since the end of August and just got out of the way. 1-1.
It's a big, big situation for both ball clubs, obviously. Denny, the good pitcher that he is, what does he do with the man on third, less than 2 outs? And the Dodgers have to score this run or the air will really be out of the balloon.
And again, the infield is halfway. Off speed, little grow, and now Schmidt can go to the plate and get Fernando. Easy. So the Dodgers can't get the fly ball. They couldn't get the fly ball last night, and it beat them. And they can't get the fly ball tonight. And with 2 out, we also wonder now about all the base-running heroics and what that will take away from Fernando as Schmidt makes his play.
He hit it right off the end of the bat. Fernando didn't have a chance. He slides in, and it's an easy tag for Diaz. Fernando, it was a contact play. As soon as contact was made, he came in. And you know, he's a pitcher and all that, but I have to question that because that ball was right to Schmidt off the end of the bat.
Oh, sure. 1 ball and no strikes to Baker. Aboard on an error, fly to center. There's one hit foul outside of third down the line. 1-1. Remember Dusty Baker last night with a runner at third and 1 out. Popped the ball in the air and Steve Carlton caught it. So it's 2 games in a row where the Dodgers can't pick up a man at third. In this instance with nobody out. Now 2 down. You have Brock at first on the fielder's choice. 2-1 to count to Dusty Baker. And there's Fernando. And we'll see about the 6th inning. He's going to be pitching to Mike Schmidt, Sixto Lezcano, and Gary Matthews. Did all that base running take something out of? 2-1. Ball 3.
Ben, I got to believe that not scoring the run will take more out of him than the base running, because you got a man on third and your first, second, and third place hitter up there. You have to score that run. But you got to give John Denny a lot of credit, because there it is, that yardstick again. What does he do with a man on third and less than 2 outs? Well, he's got a man on first, nobody in, and 2 outs.
There's ball 4 to Dusty Baker. So the Dodgers are given yet another opportunity. With runners at first and second. It'll be Pedro Guerrero. And we'll pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC television network.
Take a ride on the Wheel of Fortune tomorrow night at 7:30.
It's a 1-1 tie. Bottom of the 5th inning, 2 out. Dodgers at first and second. And Claude Osteen has gone to the mound. Valenzuela reached third on the error by Maddox. He was erased at the plate. And meanwhile, Osteen, who was known as Gomer in his days with the Dodgers because he looked so much like Gomer Pyle. There he goes.
You talk about a pitcher being put to a test. The man on third, Valenzuela, nobody out. He's got 2 outs. Now he's got men on first and second, and the 4th place hitter, the big man, and the other guys line up there. So Denny has to be a Houdini to get out of this one.
Remember now, John hit Guerrero with a big roundhouse curveball, hit him in the seat of the pants, and then got him to pop up in the 3rd inning. 1-1 tie, 2 out in the 5th. Slow breaking ball in there for a strike. It's like a balloon in a breeze. It just seems to float across the plate.
It's almost like the hitters don't believe that it's going to be that slow or break that much.
0-1. Fastball, and he's almost in the dirt with it. 1 ball, 1 strike. You remember last night, with 2 men on, Carlton really pitched around Guerrero and walked him to load the bases, and then got Marshall. At least Al Holland did. Ball 2, but it's a different kettle of fish tonight because you have Kenny Landreau hitting behind Guerrero. So Paul Owen, try to St. Bonaventure.
He has aged.
Yeah, this'll age you. Off speed, ground foul, outside of third, 2-2. 1-1 tie, bottom of the 5th. John Denny, a 19-game winner since July the 12th. A remarkable record of 13-1, and that loss was to the Dodgers. Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Bob Welch and Charlie Hudson at the vet in Philadelphia. Fastball, and it's a blooper to right field. That will fall, and then go behind Lezcano. In comes Brock. Here comes Baker, and going to third is Guerrero. 3-1 Dodgers.
A bloop double down the right field line. You can see by the English, a triple rather, and Lezcano tried to get over there, but that English just scooted the ball past him. Here's another view of it. He did not overrun it. It's just a spin on the ball because it was not hit hard. It ends up a 3-base hit, and it was a bit much to ask Denny to get out of that one.
And, of course, he made a good pitch. Guerrero didn't hit the ball well, but he is so strong. He was able to fight off a good pitch and hit that flare deep down the right field line for the triple. So it is 3-1 Dodgers in the 5th. 2 out. Landreau is 2 for 2, and they're going to take the bat right out of his hand. Remember, we told you he hits Denny pretty hard. So they'll walk Landreau, and once again, young Mike Marshall will be Johnny on the spot. Marshall with a chance to break the game open will be coming up. In fact, for Marshall, he's had people on base in every at-bat in this, so far in this young series.
He'll have another test here. What an inning this has been. Valenzuela with a fly ball deep to center field that you saw Maddox drop. And then after one out, Brock gets a little squibber. They get him, and it's been a tough inning.
Right fielder.
So Landreau goes to first. Guerrero holding at third with a fly ball triple and 2 RBIs. And Denny pitching to Marshall, who flied to center and hit into a force play. Little ground ball to short. DeJesus on the run, fires to first. So Marshall very anxious and a slow roller, but the Dodgers get 2 runs on 1 hit, 1 error, and they leave a couple. And at the end of 5, 3-1 Dodgers.
You're looking at the unique aerodynamic design of the new 84 Ford Tempo. But come on in for the inside story. Tempo has more driver legroom than an Audi 5000. There's a clear view of the instrument cluster. Driver's controls and storage areas are fingertips away, and Tempo's interior actually has more rear room.
NBC delighted to cover the championship series, both National and American League, for you. Delighted indeed to be here, and here in this instance tonight, Dodger Stadium. But tomorrow morning on the Today Show, what America's best dressed men will be wearing this fall. Oh, and what it'll cost. Plus part 3 of the special series on America's teenagers, what kids expect from their parents. Join co-host Brian Gumble and Jane Pauley on the Today Show tomorrow morning at 7.
Well-dressed man Brian will be wearing those clothes.
This was Mike Schmidt a little more than 24 hours ago against Jerry Royce. Reaching the seats, Landreau groping for the wall, timed his leap but couldn't quite get it. And that was all she wrote as far as last night. Well, the same Mike Schmidt will lead off in the 6th inning with the Dodgers leading 3-1.
And that was a good example, Vin, of a good pitch being hit by a good hitter. I'm so tired of hearing, well, it was a mistake. When the hometown guy hits it, that was a good pitch, and Mike Schmidt is a good hitter, and he just nailed it. It's as simple as all that.
I loved it, too, in the post-game interviews with Jerry Royce. Somebody asked him about Carlton, and Royce really got ticked off. He said, look, I'll talk about Royce, but I'm not going to talk about Carlton. And, of course, nobody talks to Carlton, not even the Cabots and the Lodges. And here's Mike Schmidt, struck out and flied to left, 0 for 2. This will be a most interesting inning in watching Fernando after his base-running exploits, and for that matter, for the remainder of the game. Oh, 0-1, the count is Schmitty. Fastball, 1-1.
Every game, when you score, the inning you come out, that's when you want to keep the other guy from scoring. You want that. Well, it's a new term now, the unanswered run. This is when you got to kind of nail it down and say, hey, we got the runs and I'm going to shut you down. And, of course, the opposition is saying, oh, yeah, I'll show you something. So they're looking to score.
1-1. And he gave him another fastball, but he missed with it, ball 2. Of course, when you're dealing with Mike Schmidt with his 40 home runs, this is the 6th year that Schmidt has led the National League in home runs, most ever by a National League player. Now, Kiner led 7 times, but 3 times he was tied for the lead. Screwball in there. 2-2 to Mike Schmidt. Opening up matters in the 6th.
I don't think Mike believed that was a strike. See, he's not turning around, but the lips are moving. He doesn't want to show up the umpire, but he is speaking loud enough that Costello hears every word.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Mike. 3-1 Dodgers, top of the 6th inning. Half swing. They're going to check it first. Swing, said John McSherry. And this time Mike knew it.
Well, he tipped it off because he started out in the batter's box. Watch this last swing. He starts and stops. Now watch this move right here. He starts like, oh, and whoop, right there. And that's it. Yeah, we got it. And then, of course, McSherry. And nobody's going to argue with Big John.
So Fernando, remember, had a strikeout on a wild pitch in the 5th inning, so he now has 4. And with 1 out in the 6th, Sixto Lezcano flied to left, grounded to 3rd. 3 runs, 4 hits for the Dodgers, 1 run, 3 hits, and 2 errors for the Phils. 1-0. Loscano followed in the lineup by Gary Matthews, who homered his first time up. Fastball missed. 2-0 the count. Fernando's longest winning streak was 5, his longest losing streak 4, and I guess his best game was a 4-hit shutout against Philadelphia and John Denny back in May.
Ben, I just checked the last one. That was 88. He threw that a bit hard.
2-0 pitch. Foul back. 2-1. Yeah, 88 is pretty high for him. Of course, I think part of that is adrenaline, don't you?
Has to be. He's got to be pumped up. Although after running like that, I thought...
they were going to have to pump him up.
Yeah, I thought the wheels had gone flat on him.
2-1. The count is 6 to Loscano. Fastball hit to center field. Landreau going back on the ball. Not quite to the track. Now on the track to make it. So Loscano a long out to center. 2 down in the 6th inning. And Gary Matthews coming up. Guerrero having a little bit to say to Fernando. And the bat of Gary Matthews. Sarge homered in the 2nd inning, fly to center in the 4th. There's Jerry Royce, the loser last night. Hard to believe you could pitch as well as he pitched and lose, but he did 1-0. Magnificent effort to beat him by Steve Carlton. Whoa, a lot of movement on that pitch.
Just to verify your adrenaline, the last 4 fastballs, the speed 87, 88, 88, 86.
I would think that's about as hard as he's thrown all year. Screwball for a strike. By the way, Joe, those tabulating, that was his 100th pitch, and it came with 2 out here in the 6th inning to make the count 1-1.
Going to be tough to finish this game having made that many pitches and we're only in the 6th.
Here's the 1-1 pitch. Fastball, and he missed. By the way, Fernando has pitched 9 innings 11 times this year. So he has some staying power, although he does not have the quality in 1981 and 82, where it was as if he didn't even know there was a bullpen. 2-1 to Gary Matthews. And he's behind 3-1. So he has struck out 4. He has walked 3. He has committed a wild pitch, and he's behind 3-1. He did not raise his sharp by any means. On deck, Gary Maddox, who hits him hard and has a single and a double tonight. So both center fielders beat up on the pitchers. Fastball, a one-hopper to Russell. Good play. So the Phillies are retired in order, even though Matthews hit that ball on the button. And at the end of 5.5 innings, the Dodgers 3 runs, 4 hits. The Phils 1 run, 3 hits, and 2 errors. That youngster having the time of his life, looking up into the sky. And what he sees up in the sky, the Goodyear blimp. And what does the blimp see up in the sky? It looks down on Dodger Stadium. And Bill Russell, a good bunt. Down to get it, John Denny, but Schmidt picks it up, off balance, not in time.
I tell you, they made it close, though. It looked like Denny was going to pick it up, but Schmidt, he picked it up barehanded. That's the only play he can make. Throws off balance. Watch the play by Rose to keep it from going to right field. Down he goes. You practice that play in the spring. You have to throw away from where you're going. That's a tough play. What a bunt.
Great bunt, and I was surprised Schmidt could get as much on the throw. I've seen a lot of guys just get it over there, but he really had some velocity on that.
Yes, he did.
Here's Fimple now, and he is around a bunt, but takes ball 1, 1-0. The Philly bullpen will get busy. Last inning, Marty Bystrom and Willie Hernandez were throwing, and they're moving around down there now. Fimple has struck out and lined out, and meanwhile, the story of this game going around the world. It's standing room only, not only in the press box, but directly upstairs above it, the auxiliary press box, full of writers from all over the United States. 1 ball and no strikes. The count to Jack Pimple. Russell at first. 3-1 Dodgers, bottom of the 6th inning. Pimple followed by Valenzuela.
It's a good move by Pimple. Sometimes when you back off like that, you get the other ball club thinking, did they switch the hit and run?
Full swing, ground ball, smothered by Schmidt. He goes to Morgan for a force. What a play.
You talk about your good athletes. You just saw 2 tremendous plays. He got one, didn't get the other. I mean, the bunt play, he came close to getting Russell. On this one, a diving stop. And the good ball player, he's not satisfied just to come up with it. He wants to get the out, and he does. What a play.
You know, Mike Schmidt, who is, as Joe said, a remarkable athlete, has 7 gold gloves. That's most by a National League third baseman. When you see him make a play like that, you understand. I always remember Pat Corrales. I was talking about Mike Schmidt, and Corrales said very sincerely, Mike can do anything he wants. Fernando with the runner going hits to Morgan and is no play. So they put the hit and run on and stayed out of the double play. Instead of having Valenzuela try to sacrifice a tribute to his ability with the bat. So Morgan had to take the play at first. That advances Pimple, and it'll bring up Sachs.
Watch the base runner, Pimple. There he goes, and he follows the ball. He sees it goes to Rose and slides into second base, but it is a tribute to Fernando. And again, it gives you a pretty good idea of what Lasorda and the board of strategy over there. They're trying everything to score a run. They're trying good with baling wire, scotch tape, fans, anything they can do to get a run in.
Well, here's Steve Sachs. You remember Sachs came up after Fernando was aboard on the error by Maddox, but Steve hit a little ground ball. He's 0 for 3. And this time a one-hopper, and Pimple is going in front of it, but DeJesus just throws over easily to first, and that was it. And for John Denny, he retires the side on his 100th pitch. No runs, 1 hit, a man left. At the end of 6, Dodgers 3, Phillies 1. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. NBC Sports, right on the ball. In the Championship Series, the American League and the National League. This afternoon, the Chicago White Sox nip Baltimore 2-1. And here at Dodger Stadium tonight, it is 3-1 Dodgers in the 7th inning. Ron Reed is throwing in the Philadelphia bullpen since John Denny is due up 4th in the inning. Maddox fouls it away. Now Landreau has been giving Denny a bad time, and Maddox has been giving Valenzuela a bad time as we look at Ron Reed. Maddox is 6 for 11 against Fernando, and tonight he has a single and a double. Oh, and 1. 1-1. In the winter meetings last December, it looked like the Phils had agreed to trade him to the California Angels for young outfielder Bobby Clark, but Maddox wanted $250,000 from the Angels to waive his no-trade clause. And Buzzy Bavasi was quoted as saying, well, that's blackmail. I wouldn't give him a dime to move to California. Though Maddox now has 2 years to go on a contract worth about $700,000 a year. 2-1, the count to Gary Maddox. Fast one. 2-2.
I think old Paul has aged since the beginning of this game.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Screwball, and he just got a piece of it. 2-2. Valenzuela. Yeah, Joe.
I just saw Greg Gross grab a bat and go underneath, so it could be that he'll be the pinch hitter.
To take the screwball away from Fernando, send a left-hand hitter up there. That's Ron Perinoski sweating out every pitch that Valenzuela makes. 2-2. Screwball, and he lifted it into shallow center. Here comes Landreau. Now that was the slow screwball.
I did ask Paul Owens his age. He gave me quite an answer.
The catcher, Bo Diaz.
Paul, people are wondering, how old are you?
I'm 59, Joe.
How old were you when the season started?
42.
What a nice nice guy.
Oh, he is a beauty. You know, he hit 400 one year in Olean, New York, right out of St. Bonaventure's. Eventually managed that club. Paul Owen. Well, that's it. That great line of one actress to the other, very sarcastically saying, just how old are you? Ground ball to Guerrero, and Guerrero to Brock. And the other actress said, oh, somewhere between 40 and death. And with 2 down, Ivan De Jesus coming up.
Shortstop, Ivan De Jesus.
Ivan De Jesus walked and then, remember, struck out on the wild pitch and reached in the 5th inning. He got to second. Morgan walked with 1 out, and Rose hit into the double play. Fernando has retired 6 in a row since the walk to Morgan. And as you mentioned, Joe, Greg Gross was moving around, but out on deck now is the big guy, Tony Perez. Si, senor.
He told me Davey Concepcion was going to be out at the ballpark after the operation. He's supposed to be here today.
1-0 to Ivan. Ball 2, 2-0. So De Jesus in a most important at-bat, trying to extend the inning, which would mean Perez would come up. It also means that Denny goes out, and it would mean that Ron Reed comes in. Oh, boy, there's a lot going on here. 2-0, the count to Ivan De Jesus, the big batter for Valenzuela. Fastball line to left. Baker's going to play it on a bounce. So De Jesus extends the inning, and that's the end for Denny. And Tony Perez coming up.
For the Phillies, batting
or as they would say,
number 24.
with a Spanish accent, Perez.
Tony hasn't played very much this last month or so, but don't think he's not ready. He and Pete Rose would go out to that ballpark every day and take extra batting practice because they wanted to be ready, and he's as ready as he can get.
Well, you know, with Yaz retiring, as you look at Pete Rose, Tony Perez takes over as the leader in career RBI among active players, now that Yaz has called it a career. And, of course, Perez called it a career at Fenway Park. He hit a 2-run pinch home run for his last at-bat in Fenway Park. That's how he said goodbye to the Red Sox last year. 1 ball and no strikes to Tony Perez. And the count 2-0. You know, in April last year, Perez voided a trade that would have brought him from the Red Sox to the Dodgers in a deal for outfielder Mark Bradley. Perez was afraid he wouldn't get enough playing time here in Los Angeles. Bradley eventually went to the New York Mets. 2-0. And a high strike, high meaning in the strike zone. 2-1 to Tony Perez. Boy, that's a sentence, isn't it? 2 balls, 1 strike. In the Dodger bullpen, Alejandro Pena and Bert Hooton are throwing behind Fernando. Ball 3, and he's struggling. So Fernando laboring, and on deck is Joe Morgan. That's Hooton on the left. Pena, of course, is scheduled to pitch the Saturday game in Philadelphia. So you know how important it is for him to be up tonight. Pena had said before the game he could work 1 or 2 innings and still start Saturday if necessary. 3-1 to Perez. Ground ball to the hole, and he's got a base hit to left field. De Jesus to second and holding. So the tying runs are aboard for Philadelphia with 2 out. As Tony Perez off the bench to ground a single to left. Now we should and we will. We'll have a runner for Tony Perez. Samuel. That's Juan Samuel running for Perez, and Pernoski running to the mound to talk to Fernando.
For the Phillies,
he's made a lot of pitches. We've been charting the pitches, and that's a factor. The base running that he did, a factor, and they've had that bullpen going. You can see Paul Owens has his bench stirring. We got decision time here.
So Tony Perez, who had been in 6 league championship series, 41 years old. Came off the bench to single to left.
117 pitches by Fernando. That is a lot of pitches, man.
Yeah, especially if you're thinking down the road to go 9. So let's see what he does with Joe Morgan. He got the first 2 batters, Maddox and Diaz, but then DeJesus singled, Perez has singled, and here is Morgan. Ball 1. He's been pitching behind, particularly the last couple of hitters. Little Joe has grounded out, struck out, and walked. Walked in the 5th inning, and then Rose hit into the double play. 1 ball and no strikes. DeJesus and Samuel on the base pad. And he's behind 2-0. So he is staggering now.
This is the man. He's got to get him. If Morgan gets on, Valenzuela's gone.
Lasorda trying to do a little cheerleading to get him through. 2 balls and no strikes to Joe Morgan. Fastball hit to right. Coming over is Mike Marshall and makes the catch. I think he thought that ball was hit harder than it was.
Absolutely. It was hit off the end of the bat. He broke back. Now he knows he's going to have to dive, and luckily he did not jar the ball loose when the left elbow hit. Many times that happens. Watch it. Once he gets in that big glove, sometimes it's jar loose, but it wasn't this time.
So thanks to the play by Mike Marshall, the tying runs are kept away. It's 3-1 Dodgers.
Generac shampoo.
Bottom of the 7th inning, the Dodgers leading Philadelphia 3-1, and big Ron Reed at 6-6 after Greg Brock. Reed working on Brock. Brock has struck out, grounded out, and was aboard on a fielder's choice, so he's 0 for 3. 0-1. Fastball and a high fly ball to Gary Maddox, and he should handle it. 1 away. Ron Reed, an interesting athlete. We'll tell you about him in a moment, but right now we'd like to remind you that next Sunday, join host Len Berman as NFL 83 kicks off week number 6. Stay tuned for exciting regional action. The Jets and the Browns, Buffalo, Miami, Denver, Houston, New England, Baltimore, Seattle at San Diego. Check your local listings for the game and time in your area. Ron Reed, 6 feet 6 inches tall, off the campus of Notre Dame, played basketball for the Detroit Pistons. Foul back out of play.
If you don't think that 6'6" isn't an advantage, what it's like in the batter's box when the guy is 6'6" and comes overhand, you get the feeling you're hitting uphill. It's like you're down in the valley and you want to say, how's everything? The peas growing, the corn?
Hey, he probably has a 5-foot stride towards the plate. Guerrero on deck as Baker now takes a strike, 0-2. If you are a trivia buff at all, you remember when Henry Aaron hit his 715th home run in Atlanta against Al Downing and the Dodgers. The winning pitcher in that game was Ron Reed. Fouled away. Baker aboard on an error, fly to center and walk. And for John Denny, a 19-game winner, he has to really question his good fortune tonight. Denny in 6 innings allowed 3 runs, all unearned. He had 5 hits, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, and a bloop triple really killed him in the 5th inning. 1-2.
Talk about Mr. Ricky's luck is a residue of design. I must say, John Denny didn't have any of the good luck tonight.
Oh, no. 1-2 to Baker. Ground foul to the far end of the Dodger dugout. Let's take a look at his 6-foot 6-inch pitcher's stride, Joe.
As he takes his stride, he's actually, I bet, releasing that thing about 55 feet from home plate. And all those arms, legs, elbows, and fingernails coming at you.
2-2 the count.
How hard do you think he's throwing now? Fernando's throwing 87, 88.
Well, let me just see a fastball. Yeah, I just saw a breaking ball. Do you know what it is?
I got it written down.
Oh, that's cheap.
Well, they told me.
Oh.
I just thought he would be throwing hard. He's only throwing 89. So he's only throwing a little bit faster than Fernando, but he looks much faster.
He sure does. 3-2 the count to Dusty Baker. By the way, they tell me that the speed gun that Mike Brito uses is about 2 to 3 miles slower than other guns. I don't know if that's true or not. Check swing, a dribbler to Reed, and a flip over to Rose. That'll do it for Baker.
I'm not going to get into a gun controversy because of past experience, but I always think it's the location, not the speed. And then I kind of lost faith when that one highway patrolman clocked a tree going 77 miles an hour.
Meanwhile, Fernando Valenzuela, after soaking his head with a towel over his wet hair in this night air, of course, you have to protect more than just your left arm. And here's Guerrero, hit by a pitch, popped a short, and then had the key hit. A little dying quail, as they used to call it, into right field. I went for a triple. Here's a bullet foul outside of third, and the count 0-1. But flare is the modern terminology for that kind of a hit, and that's a pretty good word that the modern players come up with, flare.
George Metcalf used to call them parachutes.
Yeah. Meanwhile, at the concession stands, business as usual.
They have to judge the game by the roar of the crowd.
Usually have radios over a loudspeaker so that if you're going to buy something, you're going to miss the play totally. You'll at least hear it called. So right now they're hearing about Guerrero going over to regrip. 0-1 to count to Pedro.
Manny Mota's come up with the new gripping substance that they're putting on the bats.
Not pine tar and rosin.
No.
1-1. Guerrero was a little annoyed at himself the final day of the year against the Giants. He wanted desperately to get another hit, to hit 300. He wound up hitting 298. What was driving him? It was the first year he had ever batted below 300 since he came over into the Dodger organization. 2-1 to Pedro Guerrero. Fastball lined to right field, and Lescano was there. So the Dodgers are gone in order. That's the first time that's happened since the third inning. And at the end of 7, the Dodgers 3, the Phillies 1. Coming up, Rose, Schmidt, Lescano, and maybe Gary Matthews. Next Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, NBC Sports World returns. A 10-round middleweight bout between undefeated knockout artist John Collins and Tony Simpson, live from Atlantic City, New Jersey. Plus the Gold Cup Unlimited hydroplane race from Evansville, Indiana. All coming up when NBC Sports World returns next Saturday. As we go to the top of the 8th, 3-1 Dodgers. Darrell Thomas is in right field, and Mike Marshall takes over at first base. So Thomas will go into Brock's spot. Pitch fouled away off to the right, out of play, and the count 0-1. In the Dodger bullpen, Tom Niedenfuer and Oral Hershiser, but Niedenfuer has been battle tested, and with the Dodgers leading, you would think he's the one who would be brought in.
As hard as he's throwing, Vin, they told him get ready.
0-1. Strike 2 to Pete Rose. Rose against Fernando, and Fernando struggling in the 7th inning. Rose trying to start something. He walked, lined back to the box, hit into the double play, and looks at strike 3 call. 5 strikeouts for Valenzuela. 1 out in the 8th inning, and the batter now, Mike Schmidt. But of course, the crowd reacting to the thought that if Rose had gotten aboard, Schmidt, with all his thunder, represents the tying run. Now, of course, his best shot can only get Philadelphia close. So that's a big out. Schmidt has struck out, flied to left, struck out again, 0 for 3. And a bunt by Mike. Up along third, Pedro picks it up, but no play. So a heady play by the power man.
Talk about a complete player. He knows that the home run would do exactly what you said, Ben. It'd make it 3-2. He's got to make sure he gets on. He sees Guerrero back, and he says, if I can get that ball down, I got the tying run at the plate. It was just a beautiful bunt. He has done everything in this series in the 2 games. He beats this out for the base hit and does it perfectly right out of Scholastic Coach, for crying out loud.
Wow, you see him handle that, and then you realize he hits 40 home runs a year.
And then the plays he made at third base, I think you put him in a deep freeze and make sure nothing happens to him. Keep him protected.
And I keep thinking of Pat Corrales saying he can do anything he wants. Well, here's Sixto. Fly to left, grounded to third, fly to center, 0 for 3. On deck, Gary Matthews, so some big hitters coming up now. Breaking ball, ball 1.
Here's the bunt. Now watch how he handles. He slides it up the bat handle. He deadens it down the third base line. He sees it's fair, and now he's got that head down, and he's digging base hit all the way.
Great heads-up play by Mike Schmidt. Now the 1-0 pitch to Lescano. Ball 2. Fernando retired the side in order in the 6th. Labored and got by in the 7th thanks to that diving catch by Mike Marshall. And now here is in the 8th with a runner aboard and 1 out. We mentioned about Steve Carlton last night. Remember after the 7th inning his earned run average was 5 this year? That's low. Well, Fernando's earned run average after the 6th inning this year is over 5. Now, in 1981, he had the reputation, when he had 8 shutouts, of being a great closer. He has not been a great closer this year.
Niedenfuhr's throwing like they said, get ready. First sign of trouble, he's out.
3-0 to Lescano. Looking at a strike. 3-1. Lescano, of course, representing the tying run. And Sixto checking with Dave Briscoe in the third base coaching box.
You know he's got the hit sign.
Yeah, hitting 4th.
They put the take sign on now. Paralysis would set in. They'd have to revive him.
3-1 the count is Sixto. Fastball, and he takes it. Probably, and you got to understand when a hitter takes in that kind of a spot, he's looking for a pitch, not just to hit. I mean, he's looking for a pitch to drive downtown, and that one was about at the knees outside, and he didn't like it. So a full count, 1 out. Schmidt held on by Marshall. Mike goes and then stops going. Ground ball to Russell. He goes to sack. He goes to Brock. Double play. For the Dodgers, their 3rd double play of the night. And they bail Fernando out. And at the end of 7.5, Dodgers 3, Phillies 1.
Here's Mike Schmidt, a 3-1 count. Looks like he was breaking. I certainly was looking for him to go. Watch him. He starts to go, and then all of a sudden he puts the brakes on. Now he sees the ball hit. It's a double play, but I think Mike Schmidt shows the frustration after the play is completed. Watch this.
Meanwhile, in the bottom of the 8th inning, Kenny Landreau has just taken one way inside. Ball 1, 1-0. Landreau singled twice and walked intentionally. Lifts a fly ball into left center. Matthews and Maddox, it'll be Matthews. So 1 away. If you're not keeping score with us, and you wonder about Philadelphia in the 9th inning, they are due to send up Gary Matthews, Gary Maddox, and Bo Diaz, and Ivan DeJesus due to bat 4th. Here is Mike Marshall, started in right field, made a big defensive play on that little fly ball off the bat of Joe Morgan in the 7th inning, and is finishing at first base. Now back.
That got Stello right on the shoulder, it seemed like. You can see that ball. Those are those stingers. Nothing serious, but tomorrow you wake up and you got that nice black and blue mark. Here it is. Watch it just go right off the bat, over the catcher, and Zampo right there.
0-1. Fouled away, strike 2, 0-2. Marshall tonight is fly to center. Hit into a force play. Remember when he hit the ball by Denny, and by the time Morgan picked it up, he was beyond second base and couldn't flip the ball to DeJesus, and they only got a force. And last time up, he grounded out. Boy, he fought that thing to pieces. That hit him right on the handle. 0-2.
I thought he hit it on his elbow. You see how tight that thing was?
We will be picking most valuable player a little bit later on. 0-2. 1-2. Ron Reed working on Marshall. Russell to follow. Bottom of the 8th. 3-1 Dodgers. Breaking ball fouled away. The scene will shift to the Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia Friday at 3 p.m. Bob Welch and Charlie Hudson. And, of course, the American League tomorrow night at 8 p.m. White Sox beat Baltimore today 2-1. That's fisted fouled. He's eating him up inside. There is Fernando. He's got 1 inning to go, and repeat, Matthews, Maddox, and Diaz.
He has struggled, but he's hanging in there.
1-2. Fastball fouled, and that took a bite out of Diaz, I think.
Right in the mask, and that was the classic example, Ben, of not bending your head. Keep your eyes looking straight to center field so the mask takes it.
Boy, when you're a very, very young catcher, it must be awfully tough not to turn your head or flinch. Just outside.
It's very tough, but did you get a foul tip off the coconut? You see how fast you learn.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Mike Marshall. 1 out in the 8th inning. Got it. So Mike's struggling with the bat. 2 down in the 8th inning. And Bill Russell coming up against Ron Reed. A reminder, this telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Bill Russell struck out in the 2nd inning, singled to right in the 4th, and bunted for the base hit in the 6th. Ball 1. So Russell 3 for 6 in the 2 games. Ball 2. On deck, catcher Jack Pimple. In there for a strike, 2-1. There's Pimple waiting his turn. 3 runs, 5 hits for the Dodgers. 1 run, 6 hits, 2 errors for the Phils. The Philadelphia run a home run by Gary Matthews. And that inside tied up Russell and got a little bit of the bat, I believe.
I think it got Stello, too, a little bit, because that ball just kept coming in. Russell tried to duck it, and it's been a tough inning.
Russell double checking the count. 2-2 the count. And maybe not. Now Diaz is saying, I thought it hit the bat. And Stello says, wait a minute. Did he half swing? No swing, said John McSherry. Paul Owens standing in front of the dugout. You look at it. Evidently, it didn't hit the bat. And they didn't call a swing. So it's 3-1. And there's ball 4. So Russell is aboard with 2 out, and Jack Pimple the batter. Pimple struck out in the 2nd inning with Russell at second base and 2 out in the 4th. He hit a line drive, and Morgan went up and got it. And then last time up, he hit into a force play on a good play by Mike Schmidt. Ron Reed trying to keep things quiet. The Dodgers have just 1 hit, the bunt single by Russell, since the 5th inning. In the 5th inning, that's when Guerrero had that flare triple to right field. Russell has stolen 13 bases this year and been caught 9. But what's really important is Russell is 5 for 5 in stolen bases against Philadelphia. Pitch fouled away. Now, normally you'd say, well, you're not going to steal, because then they would pitch around the 8th place hitter. But you've got a pretty good hitting pitcher on deck, so you never know here with 2 out. Of course, the count 0-2, and you're really vulnerable to the pitch out here. And they pitch out. 1-2, and Russell is holding.
Interesting call. I sit here and I heard you say that, and I said, oh, why would they be running now? You said pitch out. I was saying to myself, no way. And there it was.
1-2, and there he goes. And it's outside, and the throw down, he is 6 for 6. Could you believe that?
Well, once he made the pitch out call, you knew he wasn't going to double pitch out, and so Lasorda said, well, I might as well start him if he can get a jump. And with Reed's slow delivery, he had a pretty good jump. He knew there would be no pitch out, and Diaz just threw the ball right in the ground.
Now, Diaz looked over to Owens and said, okay, what do we do with Pimple? And he said, pitch to him. So it's 2-2 to Pimple with Russell at second and 2 out. Ball 3. Fernando on deck is 0 for 2. One of them was that long fly ball to center that was dropped by Gary Maddox and led to a 2-run inning of breaking the tie. Popped it in the air, foul, and out of play. So Pimple hacking away on a 3-2 count. Russell at second, 2 out, bottom of the 8th inning. Dodgers 3, Phillies 1. That hand is swollen, you know. It's not just a hairline fracture. I mean, it's really puffed up. And he bangs it to center. It's going to be a base hit. Here comes Russell to throw to the plate. He scored. And the stolen base is cashed in. Lasorda gambled, and then Philadelphia gambled and pitched to Fimple, and the Dodgers get the run. And you could take that one little bit of play and dissect it all night.
You can begin dissecting it. They had 2 strikes on Fimple. Why worry about Russell? You got to get Fimple to step on his Adam's apple, and they pitched out. Now it's 2 strikes and 1 on the next pitch. Russell steals. It's 2-2. Now they end up to where the stolen base is cashed in. That's one of those where they made the mountain out of the molehill and it cost them.
You know, I was just thinking and looking at the 2 dugouts, Jerry Royce would not have been human if, as he walked around thinking, yeah, 4 tonight.
Where were you last night when the house was burning?
Right, and I could see him congratulating people, but at the same time, you know, inside he's got to just kill him. So here is Fernando with the Dodgers leading 4-1, and Fimple at first base. Don't forget now, in the 9th inning for Philadelphia, Gary Matthews with a home run, Gary Maddox with a single and a double, and then Bo Diaz. 1 ball and 1 strike. If you rated the Dodger pitchers in the last month of the season, the #1 pitcher on the staff would not be Fernando. It would be Friday's pitcher, Bob Welch. And he will go against Charlie Hudson. Charlie Hudson was 0-2 against the Dodgers this year. There's a one-hopper hit down and skidded, and DeJesus hangs it on a hook for Morgan, and they get the force play. But the Dodgers pick up a run on a walk, stolen base, and a single. And at the end of 8, the Dodgers 4 runs, 6 hits. The Phillies 1 run, 6 hits. Matthews, Maddox, and Diaz due up in the 9th.
This is my hideout. I build golf clubs here. And it's amazing how they've changed over the years. Same with Pennzoil. When you think how much cars have changed, you know Pennzoil can't just keep up. It's got to stay ahead. And it has. Pennzoil started with quality. And you know, they keep right on delivering it. And somewhere around here, I've got an old tractor to prove it.
Pennzoil, quality protection. Ask for it.
Okay, guys, I was a little off. We're not on Route 35. We're on Jackrabbit Road.
Jackrabbit Road?
Yeah, we're not in Pennsylvania. We're in West Virginia.
West Virginia?
They got some great-looking steaks inside, and Lowenbrow on top.
Let's go.
When you want the taste of a truly great beer, tonight, let it be Lowenbrow.
Boy, he really lucked out this time.
I knew we were.
Ford Escort. It's engineered with 4-wheel independent suspension for a smoother ride than this Japanese import. It's engineered with more passenger room than this Japanese import. Plus, Escort has more standard features than this Japanese import. And now with the new available 2-liter diesel engine, Ford Escort is engineered for better mileage ratings than this Japanese import. Have you driven the best-built American cars? Have you driven a Ford lately?
Get ready for the hot season premiere of Hill Street Blues.
It's going to be a doozy.
Coffee and Bates face an angry mob alone when the Emmy winner returns October 13th.
We'd like to give you the paid attendance as we go to the 9th inning, and there's a little bit of a story there. The Dodgers made a mistake last night in their paid attendance. They gave the turnstile count, as we pointed out to you last evening, 49,963. However, in league championship games, you do not give the turnstile count. You give the count total tickets sold. So the attendance for tonight's game, 55,967. And of course, last night's crowd was similar. And now to the 9th. 4-1 Dodgers with Matthews, Maddox, and Diaz. In the Dodger bullpen, Tom Niedenfuer and the starter pressed into relief, Rick Honeycutt, are throwing behind Fernando. Matthews homered, fly to center, grounded out. And Fernando trying to go 9. Ground ball to the hole, backhanded by Russell. The long throw is over Marshall's head and into the photographer's well. So Gary Matthews, a 1-1 play, a base hit, and an error. And an ominous beginning for Fernando.
Russell does a good job backhanding the ball, but he's so deep at the shortstop's position. He tried to put extra on it, and he just threw it over Marshall's head, and that's a pretty good job in itself. As you can see, the big guy just couldn't get it, so Matthews is on at second base.
So a runner at second, nobody out. And it's 1-1, base hit and error. So that's 7 hits for the Phils, and the first Dodger error. Philadelphia has made 2 errors. Maddox, a pivotal figure in tonight's ball game on his error when he stumbled and dropped the long fly ball hit by Fernando. Ball 1. 1-0 the count. Maddox, single to left, double to left, fly to center. He has hit Fernando hard this year. 1-0. And he's behind 2-0, and he is really wobbly. And whoops, here comes Tommy Lasorda. And Tommy might have had enough. Normally what he'll do when he changes, he goes out, talks to Fernando in Spanish, and says, I think I'll bring in a fresh horse. So let's just see if he brings in a fresh horse. He's looking to the bullpen. He's had Niedenfuer throwing, and he wants him. So Tom Niedenfuer is coming in. A point here with the count 2 balls and no strikes. If the batter walks, the walk would be charged to Fernando, but it still means he can't lose. He goes out leading by 3 and possibly responsible for only 2 more runs. Well, Joe, you called it. You said it pretty hard for him to go 9. He made 133 pitches.
Well, he was struggling. He gets a nice hand from this crowd. Let's listen to the reaction.
Burger King presents the McDonald's. An unusual interview. Is it true all of you switched to Burger King?
Yes!
How come?
Bacon double cheeseburger.
Plain broiling. The Whopper.
French fries.
Being McDonald's, you must take a lot of ribbing.
Yes, we can't show our faces anywhere anymore.
Would you advise everyone to switch to Burger King no matter what their name is?
You bet.
You bet.
Okay, America. Now, when you switch to Burger King, you can tell them...
McDonald's sent you!
Hey, how about that great investment?
Well, my broker's E.F. Hutton. And E.F. Hutton says...
When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen.
O.J., you sure they're going to have that reservation? The tournament starts in 3 hours.
Carney, Hertz comes through for thousands of people every day.
What if the car isn't there?
Carney, Hertz has hundreds of thousands of cars. Relax.
What if something goes wrong with the car?
Hertz doesn't leave people stranded, Arnie. What are you worried about?
Well, you're right, O.J. There wasn't anything to worry about.
I'm afraid there's a few things, Arnie.
What's that?
There's Watson. There's Trevino.
I got you.
Hertz, the #1 way to rent a car.
As Fernando being taken out, he and Lasorda, it looked like they were discussing something on the mound. The discussion continues in the dugout. Fernando looked like he might have been a little bit ticked.
Don't know whether he was annoyed being taken out or possibly annoyed at some of the calls by the plate umpire or a combination thereof. He gestured out, and he's talking to the Latin players in that corner of the dugout. Landis-Stoy, Manny Mota, come others. And we're also a little bit of maneuvering. A reminder following late local news, the Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson and Late Night with David Letterman. Now, the Phillies are making a couple of changes. With the count 2 balls and no strikes on Gary Maddox, they bring up Greg Gross. Now, here you have a 300 hitter with the count 2-0. That's like Christmas for Gross. And on deck, Joel LaFay, another left-hand hitter, to bat for Bo Diaz. Now remember, with the count 2-0, should he walk, it would be charged to Valenzuela. It's 4-1 Dodgers 9th inning, but it's far from over. Ball 3. 3-0. Tom Niedenfuer has had some control problems. As we mentioned last night, he's made as many as 65 pitches in relief. And he walks him, but the walk is charged, remember, to Fernando. Now, that means Fernando walked 4. And with runners at first and second and nobody out, Joe LeFay now becomes the potential tying run. LeFay was acquired from San Diego in May for Sid Monge, and he immediately developed into one of the Phil's best players. He might have the best arm outside of Andre Dawson of any outfielder in the league. From New Hampshire. So Joe LeFay spells his name the same way, but pronounces it differently from the Dodger infielder Jimmy Lefevre. So Joe has it LeFay. LeFay hit .306 with 8 home runs and 39 RBIs during the year. 0-1. The Dodgers will always remember LeFay. Last year, in a 16-inning game here against the Dodgers, playing for San Diego, he had 6 hits. That was a game made memorable because it was the last home run Steve Garvey hit as a Dodger. 1 ball, 1 strike. A bluff by Fimple. That had Gross diving back to the bag. Standing at second base, Gary Matthews. And Fimple's going to go out and talk to Niedenfuer. 1 ball, 1 strike.
I would think in a spot like this, he just wants to make sure of the signs. I don't think he's worried so much about Matthews at second base stealing them. He's with this series of signs he can.
LeFay, a very tough customer. He led the Phillies against right-hand pitching. He hit .341. So they got a big man up there with 2 on, nobody out in the ninth. Dodgers 4, Phillies 1. Matthews at second, Gross at first. 1 ball and 1 strike to Joe. Tom Niedenfuer, 8-3 during the regular year. LeFay will be followed by Ivan DeJesus. And then Von Hayes comes out of the dugout. Get another left-handed bat out there. 1-2 to Joe LeFay. Nobody out in the ninth. 4-1 Dodgers. Fouled away.
And you watch a fellow like Niedenfuer tonight, a fellow like Holland last night, you can see what the manager wants when his guy comes out of that bullpen. You don't want any trick pitches. You don't want any cutesy poos. You want somebody to just rear back and fire a strike with as much good stuff as you possibly can. That's what Niedenfuer is doing right now. Holland did it last night for the Phillies. That's why the bullpen has become so important.
Yeah, this is really a day and age of specialists. Relief pitchers, pinch hitters being used more today, I think, than ever before. 1-2 the count to Joe LeFay. 2-2. This crowd twisting and turning and dying a little bit on every pitch. And I'm sure they're doing the same back in Philadelphia. Here in the inning, Matthews singled to the hole at short, and Russell overthrew Marshall for an error. Gross inherited a 2-0 count and walk for Gary Maddox, and LeFay up there, 2 balls, 2 strikes, with Niedenfuer picking up for Valenzuela. Got it. So LeFay strikes out on hard stuff against Tom Niedenfuer. And now DeJesus will go back in the dugout, and they'll go to Von Hayes.
You're wondering about the speed because Niedenfuer appears to be throwing very hard. As we look at Paul Owens, Niedenfuer's last fastball was 87 as far as the radar gun. But he looks like he's throwing very hard. And again, Pimple is out there simply saying, keep firing the ball. If it's hit back to you, you know who's covering? Yes, I do. Well, then let's go back to work. There's nothing fancy here. You're not painting a picture out here. It's pretty basic.
Von Hayes coming up with 2 on and 1 out in the 9th inning. 4-1 Dodgers. Probably the worst thing that ever happened to Von Hayes was when Dave Garcia was Cleveland manager, and one said that Hayes would be another Ted Williams. I mean, I can't think of a worse thing to say about a young ball player. Thimple down to first, not in time. Back under the tag is Gross. Ozzie Virgil Jr. is out on deck, and he is being called back to talk to Paul Owen.
This is one of those I'll be there plays. He saw a chance. It wasn't a set play, and it was pretty close. And what that does is cut the lead down just a little bit, and maybe you get a chance to get the man at third. You don't get to play at the plate.
He has been a very successful pinch hitter of late, has Von Hayes. The 1-0 pitch in there. In his last 8 appearances, he's had 3 hits and a couple of walks. By September, Hayes and Pete Rose were the club's 2 top pinch hitters. Of course, Philadelphia traded 5 players to get him. Little looper, and Russell going back. He will make the play. The infield fly rule is called. So Hayes is jammed and pops it up. And with 2 out, Ozzie Virgil Jr. coming up. He'll be batting for Ron Reed.
Baranowski's coming out to talk to his pitcher Niedenfuhr, and they'll just go over how they're going to pitch to young Virgil, who was having some fun with me before the game. He said, tell my dad if we get in the World Series, I'll have 2 tickets for him. Of course, his father coaching from San Diego, so he's kind of sticking a little needle in him.
For young Ozzie, boy, he made his dad proud. Virgil hit his first career Grand Slam home run of Gary Lavelle as a pinch hit shot against the Giants with 2 out in the 9th inning, and it gave the Phils a 5-3 victory, and a big one indeed. So having used Gross, LeFay, and Hayes, now Ozzie Virgil coming up. They do not have any more left-handed hitters available. And remember, they also use Perez, they use Samuel as a runner. So they have Garcia, Kiko Garcia, and Bob Jr. on the bench. And this crowd on its feet with 2 out in the 9th inning. And the Dodgers leading 4-1. So Virgil at the plate with 2 out. Matthews at second, Gross at first. Breaking ball for a strike. 0-1. Check swing foul into the Philadelphia dugout, and the count 0-2. Lasorda, Monty Basco, Joey Amalfitano, all gesturing, especially to Bill Russell. With 2 on and 2 out, 9th inning, Dodgers 4, Phillies 1, and this big crowd on its feet. The Dodgers trying to get even at 1 game apiece. For 1 and 2.
Did you ever hear 55,000 umpires in the stand?
Ooh. You get to a spot like this, you just sit back and watch. 2 out, 2 on, 1 and 2 the count. 4-1 Dodgers, 9th inning. Call. Fastball got him looking. So Fernando gets the win. Niedenfuhr gets the save as he strikes out 2. Well, Joe, it is so difficult for the Major League art of pitching. If you can get into the 9th inning, I guess that would make Fernando the MVP.
I agree with you.
So this week's NBC Miller High Life Player of the Game is Fernando Valenzuela. Miller High Life happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Fernando to the Special Olympics. So the Dodgers are alive and even as they beat Philadelphia 4-1.
To endure, to adapt, to overcome. The Xerox 1075 Marathon Copier. Designed to be versatile with a choice of 20 configurations. Engineered with the intelligence of 6 personal computers to perform at peak levels at all times, and built to endure. The 1075, one of the marathon copiers from Xerox. Official sponsor of the 1984 Summer Olympics.
You're gonna love it. This computer makes sure everything fits like it's supposed to. And when things fit right, they work right. You're gonna love the way things fit.
Based on a survey of owner-reported problems during the first 3 months of use, Ford Motor Company is building the highest quality cars and trucks of any U.S. manufacturer.
You're gonna love the quality Ford. Quality is job one.
I love it.
All day long, we're all business. After that, it's a whole new ball game.
Welcome to Miller Time.
It's all yours, and it's all mine. Bring your thirsty self right here. The rich, smooth taste of Miller beer is what you have in mind. Welcome to Miller Time.
Welcome to the rich, smooth taste of Miller High Life.
Bring your thirsty self right here. You've got the time, we've got the beer. What you have in mind. Welcome, you know you're welcome. Welcome, everybody's welcome. Welcome to Miller Time, yours and mine.
The totals for the Dodgers: 4 runs, 6 hits, 1 error. For the Phillies, 1 run, 7 hits, 2 errors. It was a home run by Gary Matthews. The winning pitcher, Fernando Valenzuela. The loser, John Denny. And a save for Tom Niedenfuer. For the second night in a row, the Phillies get a home run, only this time it didn't stand up. Tonight's game has been brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Miller High Life, the best beer for the best time of the day. Welcome to Miller Time. By Xerox, managing information around the office and around the world. And by Burger King, home of the flame-broiled Whopper. Aren't you hungry for Burger King right now? Joe, what about some thoughts on this ball game tonight?
Well, I think it sets up Valenzuela, as we look at him, let's say about him, that he really hung tough because I didn't think he had his real good stuff, especially in the middle innings, but he just kept hanging in there until they gave him some help. I think it sets up, there he is rounding second base. That's a memorable shot. I think it sets up what the Dodgers have had to do all season long, and that is scratch, claw, and do whatever they have to get a run. And they got a lucky break on the triple by Guerrero in the 5th inning. They needed a split. Obviously, the Phillies, when they came here, said, hey, if we can split here, we'll be happy to go back to the vet. And that's what happened, so we're set up in good shape.
Friday at 3 p.m., Pennsylvania-born Tommy Lasorda will lead the Dodgers and Bob Welch against Charlie Hudson at the vet. Stay tuned for The Tonight Show, starring Donnie Carson, late night with David Letterman, following local news, except on the West Coast, most Mountain Time Zone stations, where they'll be seen at their regular time. Now, for Joe Garagiola, this is Vin Scully from Dodger Stadium. Hi, sweetheart. Good night.
A promotional fee has been paid to NBC by United Airlines. We serve more of this land's top 100 business centers than any other airline. Fly the friendly skies.
A promotional fee has been paid to NBC by Hilton. When American business hits the road, American business stops at Hilton, America's business address.
This has been a presentation of NBC Sports, the leader in innovative sports television.
I hope you'll be with us later tonight. My guests are Sean Connery, Tanya Maria, and from Love and Honor, Keenan Ivory Wayans. See you later tonight. I hope so.